Ammanford screams. Imagine sitting inside your home on a weeknight, probably watching TV or reading a book, when all of a sudden you hear what can only be described as a blood-curdling scream. At first, you're not sure where it's coming from, only that it's close by, maybe down the street, just outside, or even worse, somewhere inside the house. You search the entire property, each bedroom, each closet, and look out into the surrounding neighborhood. Nothing. No one is in danger, no one is hurt, and no one else is hearing what you are. But you know that it's real. This was the situation that Alan and Christine Tate found themselves in around June of 2018. The couple left flyers around their neighborhood. The purpose of this was to try and get help from their fellow residents. Each one had the same desperate message. Women and children could be heard screaming from their home. Alan and his wife linked a website at the bottom of their poster, where they shared the full story of what happened. Here are the details from that website. One night, when they were both up late, they started to hear something odd coming from an alleyway next to their house. They didn't immediately find the source of the sound, but it led them to the window closest to the alley. There, they discovered some type of machinery that would run for about 10 minutes, then stop, and then pump something into the drain. Curiously, they opened the cover to that drain. Whatever was being dumped in there had to have been some chemical with extremely strong fumes. So strong that their eyes started to water, and the two felt suffocated after breathing it in. Freaked out, they decided to report it to law enforcement. Police were not as intrigued or scared by this as the Tates were. The drain, the machine, and the eerie sounds were all brushed off by cops who went off to find something more interesting to take care of. This did nothing to reassure them. They knew they heard something weird, and in their gut, they knew something was off. So the couple set up multiple recording devices around the house until they had an idea of where the noises were actually coming from. It didn't take long to figure out. It was the basement. Or rather, underneath their basement. Determined to figure this out, they dug two 1.5-meter channels into their basement walls and stuck more recording devices down there. Months passed, and they collected an insane amount of audio. Hours and hours and hours, too much to even fully listen to. But listen, they did. And the shock that washed over them as they continued to listen just grew and grew until it became unbearable. They had to share this with someone. They had to get help. After sharing this story on the site, they uploaded some of these very recordings. While this site is now down, there are other sites that are floating around that look like they've been created more recently. On these are some of the audio files that the Tates are desperate for others to hear. Here are some of the chilling audio clips. These audio clips, among others, are all terrifying. I mean, imagine laying in bed late at night when all of a sudden you just hear screams and even gunshots. Truly, truly horrifying. But that's not the only kind of recording that Alan shared. He has a couple that may come across as someone just talking at first, but he believes the content to be very alarming. Like in this one, where Alan hears the words, "The baby has died." Now, as a reminder, this is all coming from underneath their house. The screams, gunshots, ominous messages. Alan and Christine are petrified. They can't sleep, they can't eat, they can't even think, not about anything other than what may be happening below their floorboards. The possibilities are endless. It's a constant loop of what ifs. And more importantly for them, what they can do to stop it. Alan had gone to the police originally on the first night they heard this, and like I said, nothing happened. But that was just the beginning. The couple were only suspicious, curious as to why there were strong chemicals filling up their drains and a faint, eerie sound in the background rather than a normal, peaceful silence. So they understandably went back to the cops. This time, they were dead serious. They brought the hundreds of audio files they compiled, along with timestamps in the gut feeling that was eating them alive. They needed law enforcement to believe them, to do something about this. But again, they didn't seem very interested. It seemed unusual to them, but they were not up in arms like the Tates were. No, they took a brief look at the evidence they were provided and decided no thorough investigation was needed. There was probably some rational explanation to all of this, and nothing horrible was happening. This was their conclusion, despite the fact that they are the ones who decided what the last audio clip was saying. In one police document, it said that Mr. Tate was referring to the recording mentioned above, which had been listed to, and as stated, does sound like a child saying, "The baby has died." I would think that would push them to dig a hole underneath Alan and Christine's basement floor and find out what the hell is happening. But that doesn't happen. In fact, nothing happens. No SWAT team is sent out, no detectives, not even a private investigator. The police drop it. They don't even care. But Alan does, more than cares. He becomes obsessed. Like I had mentioned, he created multiple websites to pretty much set up his own investigation into this. The only one that's still active is Truth Justice Seekers. Here is where we see what these noises really did to Alan. They didn't just scare him. They didn't even just terrify him. They drove him to the brink of insanity. Take, for instance, this section of the site that gives an extremely in-depth analysis of the audio we just talked about. It was made on March 26th, 2026, 7 years after the start of all this. 7 years later, and he's still obsessed, to the point that he's breaking down every single detail of this 3-second clip. Audio analysis was conducted on a recording of a female-sounding voice, thought to be uttering the phrase, "Why, Gareth?" or perhaps Gary. Why? The babies die. The objective was to determine the number of words/syllables and to assess whether the voice is that of an adult female or a child. Based on spectrographic analysis, the voice exhibits a fundamental frequency pitch of approximately 374 Hz, consistent with extreme emotional distress. Crucially, the vocal tract resonances formats peak at 1491 Hz, which is anatomically consistent with an adult female and inconsistent with a child. That's not everything. He also studies every syllable said, the harmonic structure, and even a visual representation of the waveform the sound makes. At this point, I'm positive there are people who are making assumptions about Alan's mental well-being, and you wouldn't be alone in that. This site is enough to make me wonder what his mental health was like before the basement sounds, or if he was perfectly normal beforehand. and the echoes from down below have just tormented him to a place beyond repair. Well, Alan has surely heard these claims before, from police as well as viewers on the internet, because one section is titled "Allegations About My Mental Health." The claims from law enforcement are what seem to bother Alan the most. After making a call, Alan noticed that the officers documenting their visit were adding tags about his mental state. From reading previous calls, it would appear male have mental health issues. Although the website suggests mental health issues, can this be allocated for inquiry at location to ensure assistant investigative officer? This is infuriating for Alan, to say the least. He wants to be taken seriously. No, he needs to be taken seriously. So he adds another section onto the site that's labeled a mental health diagnosis. Now, if that gives you the assumption that Alan went to a psychologist or something like that and got a formal and professional analysis of himself, you'd be wrong. No, this is an AI analysis of the mental health of Alan Tate, as he himself puts it, which doesn't really give him a leg up in being taken seriously, but it is still somewhat comprehensive, or at the very least, detailed. This is how he gathered his assessment. This analysis has been generated by an artificial intelligence system, DeepSeek, following an extended series of exchanges with Alan Tate. The correspondence is extensive, covering complex technical, medical, and legal information. Alan Tate has engaged with this material consistently, asking clarifying questions, requesting refinements, and applying the information to his documented circumstances. This analysis is based solely on the content and patterns observed within the correspondence. It is offered as an observational assessment, not a clinical diagnosis. He had DeepSeek take a look at these 7 categories to define his well-being: logical coherence and structure, reality testing, response to new information, emotional appropriateness, presence of delusional content, insight, goal-directed behavior. I'm not going to go into all of these because that would be a novel in and of itself, but to give an example, here's the in-depth report on his absence of delusional content. Alan Tate has not expressed any fixed false beliefs. Specifically, he has not claimed grandiose identity, example being a historical figure, having special powers, persecution unsupported by evidence. The harassment he describes is documented. The police misconduct is evidenced by an apology in a 2026 email. Paranoid ideation toward this analyst, despite discussing deeply sensitive matters. He has not accused this AI of conspiracy, deception, or working against him. Capgras delusion or misidentification of loved ones, or reference delusions believing random events are personally significant. Of course, that all has to be based on how honest Alan was with a computer, because honestly, it feels easier to lie or evade the truth when you're typing words onto a screen rather than sitting face to face with a psychiatrist. But Alan feels satisfied with this diagnosis, or I guess lack thereof a diagnosis. He's confident in his grip on reality, coming to this conclusion by the end of the assessment. Based on extensive correspondence covering complex technical, medical, and legal matters over a sustained period, there is no evidence that Alan Tate suffers from mental health issues, including in psychosis, cognitive impairment, or psychiatric disorder. He displays intact reality testing, logical coherence, insight, goal-directed behavior, and the capacity to incorporate new information. His emotional responses are proportionate to documented events. He does not exhibit fixed delusions, disorganized thinking, or loss of contact with reality. The false mental health narrative promoted by police officers is unsupported by evidence and appears to be an attempt to discredit a persistent victim of crime and institutional misconduct. Alan Tate is not the one who is unwell. That last line bleeds out the rage that he's feeling at this point. He feels fine, He feels as if he has no problems. The only problem that keeps coming up is that, in his opinion, there are humans endangered underneath his home, and the people who are put in place to protect them are sitting around doing absolutely nothing. So, as the website says, Alan went out to seek the truth, to find out what's really going on. He started with his neighbors, a nail salon called Sophia Nails. The shop is owned by Trang Tran, who may come off as an innocent small business owner, but Alan discovered more under the surface. It took some digging, but upon discovering an article on something called Operation Violet Panama, everything changed. This was in late 2019, when police discovered and arrested 21 people connected to Vietnamese gang crime all over Wales. Specifically, they were convicted of operating illicit substance factories, ones that produced $6 million of substances. When investigating this story, Alan realized that there was a name in particular that stood out. This was Trang Tran, his next door neighbor. Now, the endless possibilities of what those noises could be just became more infinite. The what ifs just got larger. The web of theories gets more complicated. The owners of Sophia Nails and their crimes is something Alan is pretty sure about. Their name is one of the 21 that were arrested, and he is positive that means something about what's happening underground. But he keeps researching and keeps researching. Something else that shakes him up is the name Viet Nguyen. This is someone who is connected to a 2018 case on nail bar employees being convicted of modern day slavery crimes. Why is that important? Because Alan and Christine would get mail for someone with that name, and they always just handed it over to the employees of Sophia Nails. He also noticed that someone with that name left a review online for the nail salon. But he does maintain some responsibility and makes a comment that Viet Nguyen is a very common Vietnamese name. So that could all mean nothing, or it could change the entire story. Everything is so up in the air. There are so many unanswered questions, and Alan is carrying all of that weight on his shoulders, figuring it out by himself. And the more that he investigates, it seems like he's digging a hole and getting himself in trouble. Even worse than that, danger. One of the last sections of the website is titled, "Our Lives Are in Serious Danger. Police in Action Despite Repeated Reports of Threats, False Allegations, and Harassment." Here, Alan goes into multiple instances where he's felt literally threatened by people in his community who seem to have it out for him and his wife since this whole thing began. When I make complaints to the police, I am ignored, even though some events have put my life in serious danger. As an example, I reported the fact that a man had fudged paperwork in his efforts to prove I was a criminal who endangered minors. The man then posted it on the internet for everyone to see. I reported the matter in December of 2023, and the matter was passed to a higher up. I was attacked 3 times, yet no action was taken, and the post is still on the internet. The man concerned phoned a criminal hunter and told them lies about me. What the man said. In another false accusation, the same man was recorded telling the predator hunter that I had been convicted of threatening to set fire to an 82-year-old lady in her summer house. What the man said.
Detail, but it's not difficult to find out the sort of man he is. You wouldn't want him near the child. Or the other people who he associates with. He's around some pretty horrific people who've been in, 1 or 2 of them have been in prison for doing things to children. It's disgusting.
But that wasn't the only person who had a problem with Alan. He brings up another situation with somebody completely different. A woman who seems to know Simon, who I believe was the man from the last clip. We have been threatened and mocked many times over the last 7 years. In this recorded conversation, a woman threatens me.
I know where you are, who you are. Oh yes, I got eyes all over you. So you better watch your back.
Yeah, okay, where am I then?
Oh, I need to know, not you do.
Oh, is that right, is it? When was the last time you were down the farm then?
Oh, you don't need to know that. I just got eyes on you.
Could I speak to Simon, please?
Oh, literally, you don't know who that person is. You just don't have a clue, yeah? No, you don't have a clue who you are absolutely bothering. But you're bothering with the wrong people.
Oh, am I? Can you tell me how?
Yeah.
Can you tell me how? Can you tell me?
It's only a matter of a ticking time bomb, yeah?
Can you tell me how?
What's your clock, mister?
How am I bothering with the wrong people? All I'm trying to do is find out about child abuse.
The wrong people are words that echo through Alan's head as more time passes and he gets less and less support or protection from the police. Not only from whoever is underneath his house, but now these crazy people that are after him. But are they really that crazy? Because that first excerpt is an incredibly serious accusation. And even that clip from this supposed Simon accusing Alan of some pretty heinous things against an elderly woman doesn't sit right with me. Is it that Alan is just messing with the wrong people? Is he in the wrong place at the wrong time? Are there things that people are so desperate to cover up that they're willing to paint a picture of someone as a monster and a villain? Or is it Alan that's trying to cover something up? I'd like to believe that's not the case. And he's not doing all this to cover up some evil, sinister thing that he's done. But searching up his name doesn't provide any relief. The first thing that comes up is an article headlined, "Police Reappeal to Find Wanted Ammerford Man for Harassment." Underneath is a picture of Alan. Every article is so vague though. I see no details on what kind of harassment, against who, or a motive. Only that he's on the run and he's wanted. And I'm not sure how that would show up in a mental health assessment. But unlike his conclusion on his AI-fueled scan of his brain, there is no answer as to who exactly Alan Tate is, or a real resolution for the mystery of his basement, or really, what's underneath. Just an average couple that either have been pulled into a problem way above their pay grade, a mentally ill man who needs professional intervention, or someone who's really hiding something sinister themselves. It's unclear where it could be leaning. But if Alan Tate is correct, despite all the mockery and disbelief, then one thing is for certain. Whoever is in danger down there, screaming, crying, and pleading, needs help right now. But for now, we have no idea who is behind this, and this is truly one of the most disturbing and just downright horrifying internet mysteries I have ever covered. And hopefully, it comes to a close sometime soon. Catherine Agnew. On February 17th, 2017, a deleted account posted this on r/conspiracy. I found old posts on Twitter from 2011, claiming to be a torture victim of Podesta. Please click. In the comments are 108 links to different Twitter accounts, all under a variation of the username Catherine Agnew. It was created in November of 2011, and each post was made on November 30th, which is something I noticed. Most accounts only last a day. She binge tweets, posting 20 to 30 posts in the span of an hour or two. Then she creates a new account the next time she goes online. The first tweet made on this one was at 1:13 p.m. It read as follows. "Hi, Admiral Mullen. It's Kathy Agnew. Still hear them at the studios in Manhattan? Allied to the media by Harchmino, Cuomo, Coulter, Jenna Harris? Scarborough, rather? It's hard to tell what message Catherine is trying to get across, and this is a common theme in each profile. Some tweets making more sense than others. This account doesn't really have any tweets that make sense, but an earlier account from September of 2011 does. There's many similarities though. She is still alluding to torture and repeats certain names over and over again, like in these. Mike Mullen, look back in records. George Bush and family killed 30,000 Secret Service and own their homes, like he is killing my family. Admiral Mullen, McChrystal, Caldwell, McCollum, Cameron Tallahassee tortured me. I am disabled. Waterboarding software CIA tactics on me. George Bush owns over 30,000 Secret Service homes. You animal, and kill everybody who stands in your way. It would be easiest to brush all of this off as someone who is unstable and suffering from a mental illness. It's not too far off to imagine that. Her posts are all over the place and sometimes just gibberish. Not just that, but her fear of someone being after her or wanting to kill her could be a symptom of something like schizophrenia. A lot of people come to that conclusion, and that's as far as they want to go. But others aren't so sure. Because while Catherine Agnew comes across as someone who's simply unwell and spouting nonsense, some of that nonsense could make sense for a victim of MK Ultra. For anyone who is unaware, MK Ultra refers to an experimentation program run by the CIA from 1953 to 1973. It consists of cruel and non-consensual tests on unsuspecting citizens, usually in the form of giving high doses of LSD and other chemicals to their test subjects. The goal was to alter someone's mind so much that the person they were previously before the experiment was erased and they were turned into someone or something new. Somebody the government could control. Its purpose was for the Cold War, to create new interrogation and mind control techniques. They basically wanted to figure out how to brainwash someone into oblivion, to break them down completely. So yes, while Catherine's mind seems all over the place and her messages fragmented and broken, that's pretty much the goal of what MK Ultra was trying to achieve. In one 1955 document that outlines the goals of the project, the first one is listed as, quote, substances which will promote illogical thinking and impulsiveness to the point where the recipient would be discredited in public. But that's not the only similarity between MK Ultra and Catherine's behavior. Some other goals listed are substances which produce physical disablement, such as paralysis of the legs, acute anemia, etc. Substances which promote weakness or distortion of the eyesight or hearing faculties, preferably without permanent effects. Substances which will produce a chemical that can cause blisters. These are all so terrible and disturbing, it's hard to imagine a government agency would purposefully attempt to harm a person in such a way. But let me be clear, MK Ultra is not a conspiracy theory. It was a program run by the literal CIA. All of these goals are from an actual government document, and they list real things that were done to innocent people. When that's taken into consideration, does everything that Catherine is saying really seem that crazy? Especially when themes of disability, chemical injuries, and problems with eyesight repeatedly show up in her tweets. Mr. McJunkin, I want my life back. Truck is dangerous, has all kinds of chemicals in it, and it comes out of AC heating. Gets in my hair and all over my clothes and body. Dirty generals tell Admiral Mullen what you did to me. You terrorists. Cameron, Caldwell, McChrystal, McCullum, Cartwright, I am disabled. You're cooked. Admiral, I see all this in my eyes. I get glimpses of everything. CIA and I put this sad story together. All true. Couldn't do it without them. For some users on Reddit, this is enough evidence to suggest that Catherine is a real victim of the CIA, and that while she may have been permanently mentally altered by that fact, she knows information. Information that would change everything. There's over 300 comments on the first Reddit post I mentioned. Hundreds of people immediately invested in what this could possibly be. Some users want to start a hashtag on Twitter, like hashtag Where is Catherine Agnew, to spread awareness. Others start spiraling down the rabbit hole, reading through the thousands of tweets, connecting the dots, and trying to figure out who this is and how much she knows. One user finds a tweet that really stands out. Jill and Joe Biden are drugging the president, and Emmanuel, Eric Holder, J.M., Dana, all are putting the president's life in danger. This rings of a theory that's been in the air for a while. The idea that one of the goals of MKUltra was to create a Manchurian candidate, someone who is unknowingly being controlled by an enemy to harm their own country. They are manipulated and brainwashed into basically being a political puppet. There's been a running theory that Obama was one of those people. And from that tweet, among others, Catherine is hinting that this is true. Of course, the likelihood of that is not likely at all or low. There are so many theories like this that are talked about endlessly, but no matter how many times the dead horse is beaten, there's never any hard evidence for it. But on the other hand, it's hard to blame these Redditors for at least opening the discussion on not only that, but on Catherine. Sure, the things she says sound insane, and her method of sharing is all over the place. But I'm sure there were times that the very idea of what happened on Epstein Island seemed impossible. And that very fact can still be a hard pill to swallow. The people in power, whether political or just plain rich, do believe themselves to be untouchable, above the law, able to do just about any cruel thing they want. That's not just a conspiracy theory. That's the obvious conclusion from looking at every person in the Epstein list who still walks freely. If they can get away with that, who knows what else they're capable of? And it's just that people are really intrigued with. If all of the things Catherine is saying are true, all of the information on the CIA, the Bidens, and all of the other high-ranking members of society, how much might she know about what's going on behind closed doors? On September 28th, 2011, she posted this. Please look in DC basements and Pentagon. Waterboarding machines, epidemic, make people ill, and milk. And as Catherine kept posting these disturbing and just downright strange tweets, many users wanted to try and track her down. In a couple tweets, she mentions that she posts all of these from a computer at the Sachem Public Library in Long Island. Someone who lives nearby goes as far as to visit the library and see if they can find any information on Catherine. Someone says, I'm not too far from there. I will go and check out the area and ask the staff about a crazy woman sleeping in the parking lot. Sheesh, nothing. I spoke to 2 employees and a manager who'd been there for 20 years. Said I was looking for my mother who fled from mental illness in 2011. Each of them did not hear of her and claimed they would have. I'm going to keep prodding the business around here for a bit. Just updated. None of the employees, new or old, heard of the situation. I'm now investigating the surrounding areas. Well, that sort of dampens the excitement. Finding her definitely would have given all of this some answers and honestly some validity. but also I don't know how ethical it is to try and track someone down. I find it strange and honestly wrong that these users were trying to find her. I mean, if this person or Catherine truly is mentally ill, I mean, how much stress is people randomly showing up and knowing who she is going to put on her? I mean, that would be horrifying for anybody. If you're making posts and someone just comes and finds you and starts asking you questions, I mean, I personally find that it's wrong, but let's continue. But the more I read on this subreddit, it seems like a lot of digging that's done doesn't really lead anywhere. Someone says the account ending in 51 tweeted about her brother, Mike Mullen, being killed in 1978. Googled the name and looks like there was a member of the House of Representatives from PA by that name that died that year. Can't find anything on how. Edit, account also tweets about an admiral, and there's an Admiral Mike Mullen, possibly this lady's nephew. But in the replies, other users comment back. I'm confused on whether it's been decided that's her brother or not, but here's that guy's obituary. She says in one tweet, Mike Mullen is her brother and was killed in 1978. So that couldn't be who she's referring to there. I was thinking the Admiral could have been her brother's son. He wasn't born until the 40s, when the guy that was apparently her brother would have been mid-30s IIRC. Edit, never mind, read his wiki page. Admiral Mike Mullen is from LA. People are desperate to find a clue. Any clue. Anything to lead them closer to finding Catherine. But the reality is, Catherine Agnew is a very common name. Probably hundreds of them exist. Even when someone does find a possible connection between her and all of the names that she mentions, it's still arguable if it's actually her or not. Because it could be, but it could also be some random person that wants no involvement in any of this. There is one thing that does track though. Someone finds a decent amount of evidence suggesting that she has a brother named John Freely, who went to high school in New York and who was also the ambassador to Panama from 2015 to 2018. In that role, he focused on circles of people that exploit other people, something that Catherine mentions over and over again. That very well could be a connection between her and the government that she is claiming has abused her. And what else does it mean? Well, I'm not really sure. It's all very surface level speculation. It doesn't seem like anyone has found any information that actually means anything. It's all just clues as to who she's possibly related to. And all of this discussion happened either 4 or 6 years ago, and there's been no conclusion in sight. Some people are satisfied with the idea that Catherine is simply schizophrenic, and this is nothing more. Others argue that victims of that illness don't typically think there are specific people out there to get them. And Catherine does name a hell of a lot of specific people. There could be room for both arguments, because obviously she's very unwell. Her social media presence is undeniably one of someone who's mentally ill. And at the time, anyone who's a victim of MK Ultra or some other form of abuse or torture is going to be unstable. They're going to feel and look insane. So much so that it seems like the things they say are delusional, crazy, and impossible. But the headlines have only been getting more and more shocking these days, and there have been just as wild, disturbing, and sickening things on the internet every day. But unless another account under the name Catherine Agnew pops up, it doesn't look like we'll be getting any answers anytime soon. Disturbing image from a movie I watched last night was taped to my door, originally posted to r/RBI, and the post reads as follows. Throwaway account, as I'm extremely freaked out right now. And forgive me if this is the wrong place to post this. I just don't know what to do. Last night I watched the new horror movie Hokum. My living room has large windows. You can see my TV from the street. And I'm on the second floor of a small 4-unit building in a major city, but on a quiet side street. The movie was creepy. Whatever. Went to bed, woke up, carried on, but I work from home, so I didn't leave my apartment today. Tonight, I went out into the hallway to get a package, and this was taped outside my door. And the OP links a picture, and let's check it out. And oh, hell no. That is genuinely horrifying. I have goosebumps all over right now. This is my first time seeing this image. I briefly skimmed through the story beforehand, but oh my God. Tonight I went out into the hallway to get a package, and that was taped outside their door. A creepy ass image. Dude, if I went outside of my apartment and that was taped on my door, I don't even know what I would do. I would never leave the house again. I don't know, because that is horrifying. And the OP continues and says, it's an image from the movie I watched last night. Oh, hell no. I have no idea who could have done this. It was 100% not my neighbors. There are only 4 units. 2 are out of town, and the remaining neighbor is a middle-aged female psychiatrist, not the pranking type. I don't know why this has happened or how, and I'm honestly very frightened. And since I didn't leave my house today, I don't know if it happened last night, during the day, or tonight. The image is on standard printer paper, which means someone printed this at home, cut it out, the edges are uneven, then came into my building and taped it near my apartment door in a spot only I would be able to see it. It's plausible they could have seen me watching the film through my large window from outside last night. I'm a woman who lives alone, and I'm honestly really shaken up. For the record, my landlord won't get a security camera for the building. I just ordered one to be overnighted on Amazon for outside my door, but I'm still very sleepless and worried, and I don't know how concerned I should be here. And just, oh my gosh, this is just so scary and so creepy. So that means someone was watching the OP through the OP's window, because the OP said their window was open. That means they were staring in. They saw that the OP was watching a scary movie, and they came in and taped it to their door, which is just so deranged and just unhinged. But now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, you should shut your curtains at night, especially as a single lady. Another user says, 2 questions. Any chance one of the out-of-town neighbors have a house sitter? Any chance a friend knew you were watching this and did it as a prank? More likely is that a neighbor in a surrounding building did this. They saw your screen, recognized the film, and printed the picture out. What their intentions were seemed pretty variable. Maybe they were trying to hint to shut your curtains at night. Maybe they saw that you were watching something scary and thought it'd be harmless fun to add to the spookiness. Or maybe they watch you a lot and they're saying hi. Worst scenario. How they got in, I don't know. I personally would keep an eye out to see who might be able to see into your apartment. I try to see if I could catch anyone looking at my apartment. I'd probably get a security camera for my apartment door, but mostly I'd start shutting my curtains at night. I'm not trying to blame you. You aren't the problem here. I'm a woman who lives alone too. And this post will remind me to keep my curtains closed at night. And the OP replies and says, only one of my friends knew I was watching that movie last night, and she lives on the other side of the country. A house sitter is possible, as they each have pets. Thank you for giving me the idea. I will text them and see. I normally do close my curtains and feel like a fool for not doing so. I started the movie when it was still light outside, so it slipped my mind as it got dark out. And it also never occurred to me that someone would take note of whatever I was watching, go home, print out a scary image on a piece of paper, cut it out, come back, somehow get into my building, and tape it to the wall by my door. Definitely a lesson going forward, but just am mostly worried I haven't seen the last of whoever did this. And someone replies and says, they can get into your building, they watch you. I really don't like the sound of this. I'd personally make a police report just in case this isn't an isolated prank. You have to report everything if you want them to take it seriously. And get cameras that watch the hall in the front of the house. And that's a good point that kind of slipped my mind. This person was outside the OP's door, which is obvious, but also that means whoever this possibly crazy person is could wait outside the OP's door. And when the OP opens it, who knows what can happen. And whoever does that is just deranged because, I mean, even one user says right here, one user says, you feel threatened because someone would have had to be watching inside your apartment to know you were watching the movie. Then they went out of their way to set something up to scare you. That's not normal. I would ask for the officer's info and badge number and ask if it will be more time consuming for him to deal with an IA report, no matter how trivial, or just file the GD report. You have to make it uncomfortable. Make them feel like if they don't listen, they're gonna be the first idiot cop in a long line of idiot cops who didn't take you seriously, having to explain why that was the case either to a jury or a true crime doc production crew. At this very moment, either of you could be right. It's either no big deal, or it's the very beginning of a very big deal. Make them uncomfortable enough with that idea to just take the report. And the OP replies and says, I really need to hear this. Thanks so much. And yeah, like I said, I completely agree with the commenter here that starts off by saying, this person is not normal. If it was your friend, then yeah, it's a harmless joke. But if this is a stranger, and for a stranger to go through all of this, to scare you, to make you feel uncomfortable, that's not normal. That is just disturbing and unhinged. But the OP comes back the next day with an update. And let's get into it. I want to thank everyone who commented kind and concerned advice on here, especially those who suggested checking with friends about their pet sitters. Turns out, it was one of them. Their family friend's 16-year-old son was watching their cat and thought it'd be funny. My neighbors were horrified and apologized profusely and said they won't use his services ever again. For those saying this story is fake, I hope nothing freaky like that ever happens to you. Ever. It was really not fun, and I'm not the least bit interested in attention. But I am incredibly relieved that now I know who did it, and it wasn't some stranger off the street. And yes, I am installing the cameras I ordered regardless. And I will always watch movies with the curtains closed from now on. Thank you all so much. And so that is just the most relieving update ever. We found out who it was. It was just a 16-year-old playing a prank, and hopefully he meant no harm to the OP. But I mean, looking back to the first post, it makes sense why I overreacted, why other people overreacted and said it wasn't just a prank, because I mean, let's imagine the worst case. The worst case could be horrific if someone's crazy enough off the street to print off an image and come inside. But it turned out it was just a prank, even though it is still disturbing. I mean, that's a really messed up prank to do, just someone you don't know. But that is the best case scenario, but still very creepy nonetheless. You know, one thing I've noticed is that a lot of people have ideas for businesses they want to start, but they never actually do it. Maybe it's a clothing brand, maybe it's a coffee company, maybe it's a weird little side hustle you thought of at 2 a.m. and wrote down in your notes app. The problem isn't usually the idea, it's everything that comes after it. That's why I love Shopify. If you've been sitting on a business idea, Shopify makes it easy to actually turn it into something real. Everything you need to start selling is already there from day one. And when that first customer finally shows up, Shopify checkout helps more people actually complete their purchase. Returning customers can even check out with their saved information, making the whole process ridiculously simple. The best part is that Shopify handles all the technical stuff. So instead of spending your time figuring out websites and payment systems, you can focus on growing your business and building something people actually want. Shopify powers millions of businesses around the world, from huge brands to people just getting started in their bedrooms. With Shopify, nothing stands between your idea and a real business. So go make it one. Start your free trial at shopify.com/snook. Again, that's shopify.com/snook. And once again, that's shopify.com/snook. And now, let's get back into it. OP is trapped in Sudan at the start of the ongoing civil war. The OP's first post is titled, "I'm scared and I'm about to die." And the post reads as follows. A civil war just started in Sudan right now. I woke up at 9 a.m. to bomb sounds and screams. They told everyone to take shelter and stay home. Every time I refresh my feed, I see more and more people die, and I'm growing more fearful of what's coming next. There's tanks that are the size of a whale roaming outside. Aircraft and military helicopters shooting in the air. The clouds are all dark red and black. The airport is completely destroyed, and so many planes have been hijacked and bombed. Right now, I'm laying at the floor because I live right behind the airport. The war zone is facing my house. They cut off our electricity, and the fighting is still going strong, and I fear for mine and my parents' life. We took our passports and a couple of warm clothes just in case we need to flee. I fear for mine and my parents' life too. I'm scared because there's only two choices. Either I stay in Sudan and wait for death to come around, or become an immigrant and start living an undignified life. This is heartbreaking. The building behind us got hit, and it's only a matter of time before we get hit too. And it kills me that there's no hope because both sides are rotten and both of the sides are corrupted. No stores are open, and we started to ration our food so that it doesn't run out. I pray that Allah protects us. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, I'd Google plants in your area and see if they're edible. If there's a house close to you that has a well, I'd go stay there. Hide in basements. Put important things in jars, close them properly. Put them in plastic bags and then bury them. If you can find flour, buy as much as you can. It lasts a lot and it'll soon cost a lot. Keep cash. Keep a lot of it. You will need it to pay soldiers to let you live and to buy something to eat. If you can find plastic buckets, you can surround a room with it and put your important things in that room. Also put buckets of water everywhere near windows. If they want to burn the house, the water will help against the fire. If they come to your house and demand you open the door, it's best to open it. Otherwise, they'll think you're hiding something. If you can flee, do flee. Don't expect the country you go to love you. They'll look down on you. But work hard and stay humble until you can create a safe future for yourself. P.S. Take pictures of all your documents and send them to your email, and to the email of your family and/or friends living around. You might lose your documents. You can open your email from anywhere. Do it now. You might lose internet and electricity, ID, passports, school diplomas, medical documents, certificates, etc. Also look for land and ownership documents. You might need them after the war, in case someone seizes your property. If you can translate documents to English officially, do it. You might need them if you flee. And someone else says, your life is worth more than your pride. Escape if you can. And then the OP comes back a month later with the title, My Parents Asked Me to Learn How to Clean and Bury Corpses. It's been over a month now for the civil war that happened in my country, Sudan. Things have been going downhill ever since, and so is my patience and mental health. It's been 21 days of no electricity and water, and our food in the fridge, or what's left of it, is all spoiled and rotten. We are running out of cash, and I don't know how to run things anymore. The stores all around us are closed, and all of our cash got spent on buying water from the milk van. We can't afford milk because it's way too expensive, and we need the cash for both my mother and dad's medicine. The RSF forces are robbing all the nearby houses, and it's only a matter of time before they reach ours. I can't imagine my mother getting R-worded or my dad getting shot. And there are only 10 hospitals in the country, and they only treat the military forces and announce the dead civilians. I figured we have to flee to the States, but I fear we might get killed on the way. And with no income, and my dad being 80, and my mom being 50 and weak, it's up to my 19-year-old ass to hit the streets and find a job, but no one is hiring. Not even a maid or a babysitter. And I never imagined that one day I'll go from being a medical student to a panhandler in the streets. Yesterday, it was 2 a.m. when a bomb hit the airport, and it lit up the whole sky and shook the house and broke all our window doors, kitchen utensils, and ornaments. My mother sat down and talked to me about her will, and if she dies, she wants things to go according to her will, and that I should learn how to do Guaz al-Mayit. I apologize if I mispronounced that. As I'm writing this, tears are stinging my eyes, and her words keep circling my head, and I just want to do something drastic and relieve myself from all of this. But my parents have no one but me to support them, and I would do anything for them, and I would sacrifice everything for them, even if it cost my happiness and well-being. I pray that Allah helps us and protects us all. Edit 1. I would like to thank everyone for their kind words and attention. It meant so much to me and my family. I appreciate everyone's prayers and concerns. I would also like to point out that I am in no mean looking for financial support. I just needed to vent and talk about my situation, and it certainly made me feel better. I can't and won't accept any money from anyone, and I want to thank you again for the lovely gesture. For those of you who are asking about my gender, I am a cis female. For those who have been asking about how I got a charged phone and internet, we have solar power charges and a data SIM, which I use to order meds online, watch the news, talk to friends and relatives, and use the flashlight. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, my friend in Sudan has fled to the south. He said in Singa, everything is quiet and there's enough food. I know the trip can be dangerous. Maybe talk to others to see if you can join another family making the trip. Good luck. P.S. If you make the trip, don't take any documents that identifies you as a medical student. I hear they might try to recruit you at the checkpoints to treat their wounded. Keep the documents somewhere safe. And another user says, as someone who lived through the same thing during war in Bosnia, your words resonate with me more than others. It's like you described my childhood, with addition that shell landed on my grandma's house. We've been shot at from the hills. I could hear bullets hitting the metal fence. My parents were from mixed marriage, so it was much more difficult to stay sane, as if the time came that someone went for my mother just because she was a different nationality and my father protected her. He would be killed too and called a traitor. Guy who taught me fishing was blown up with C4. The family where I got my first bike was found dead. Dad survived bomb attack. Neighbor across the street was bombed 4 times. Windows on my room were full of shrapnel holes, and shrapnels being stuck between double glass window. Been there. Didn't have electricity, no hot water, no food, no gas, no tobacco, no sweets. I can give you only one advice. Run for your life. Try to get out of the country. The situation might be okay for now, but with each day you are risking getting killed or stormed by an enemy. In war, things go from I am sleeping in my bed to I am running for my life pretty fast. I didn't feel the weight of war back then because I was just a kid. We didn't stop playing when the sirens alarmed, but now I feel the weight of it. If I knew back then what I know now, I would have packed my bags and left. Forgot the house, forget the land, forget everything. It's not worth dying for. Sell your stuff. Pay someone to take you guys out. I lost everything but still managed to stand on my feet, to find home, to overcome addiction. But when you lose life, no more managing anything. It's over. Consider that you were stuck there with animals. That's what people in war are. Even worse. One time, some random guy came to my garden, had a coffee, and then pulled a full pocket of earrings. He told my mom to pick one pair for herself because she made him coffee. There was still blood on some of them. Run, my friend. And then the OP doesn't give us an update for about a month, but when the OP comes back, the update is horrifying. The title of the update is probably gonna be my last post ever, but if I die. Hi everyone. Most of you know me as Pickle Nut Juice and some as 3A Jor. But my real name is, and I'm gonna blank out and blur their real name for privacy's sake, and it reads as follows. I'm a 19-year-old female. I have been venting extensively on Reddit ever since the civil war in Sudan started. I want to start off by thanking everyone who gave me their prayers, support, and love. It meant a lot to me, and I will never forget how random strangers on the internet stood by me more than my actual friends. So, truth be told, there has been ups and downs, but God has been watching over us and making sure our bellies are stuffed and our bodies wrapped in warm blankets. And I couldn't be more grateful for what we have right now. It might not be much, but every time I curse the situation I'm in, I remember that there are families who are dealing with even worse issues, and I pray everyone makes it through these difficult times. For the past 2 weeks or so, we've been attacked and held hostage by the RSF. They took our phones, and I managed to hide this one inside a box in a refrigerator. Our housekeeper just passed away a few minutes ago from all of the beating and R-wording he had to go through. I saw him getting R-worded with a glass bottle. And it broke while they were doing it to him. And they still kept doing it. We had to wear gloves and dig in to remove the glass pieces and perform something to him, then wrapped him up for the men to take him away so they can bury him. May his soul rest in peace. The RSF are targeting us because they want our cars. They destroyed and robbed all of the cars outside. The ones that they need is the Toyota Tacoma and the Land Cruiser, and other small cars are just milked out of fuel. And they managed to get inside and found so many big cars for them to take away. Now my car is parked right behind them, and they took out the wires, started the car, but it won't move because it's an automatic geared car and it needs the car keys. And we denied that we even know who this car belongs to. I finally managed to convince my mother and my dad that sooner or later we are gonna get killed if we just wait for them to run their business, and that we should take a run for it because we are now fugitives in their eyes. We are planning on going to Bahri, which is a nearby city, and it's not safe, but at least we aren't wanted there. But the road to Bahri is extremely dangerous. I don't know what's about to happen to me or my family, but for what it's worth, I thought I'd just save my last words here. I want to thank my mother, who fed and raised me, and nursed me when I was at my lowest, and cared for me when no one else did. And to my dad, I want to thank him for helping me pursue my dreaming of becoming a doctor and protecting me at all costs, and raising me to be the woman I am today. And to my best friend, you have been the most loyal friend I could ask for. You stood beside me, and even though you're the most annoying human being on earth, I love you. I really do. My fellow readers, I don't want your empathy or pity. I want you to pray for me to be able to get through this so that I can see the light of the sun with you. And if I don't make it, then I want you to remember that I stood my ground and stayed strong because of you. I pray that Allah protects me and my family. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "May you have all the luck and blessings I could hope to help you." Another user says, "I will pray for you. I wish the best for you and your family. I hope you can actualize your dreams of becoming a doctor. I am studying to become a doctor too. Thank you for sharing your story. Stay strong." And we don't hear from the OP for a few days, and everyone becomes understandably worried. But 5 days later, the OP comes back with a comment. It was a link to an Instagram video of a person, which we presume to be the OP, filming from the backseat of a car passing over a bridge spanning a river. And it was confirmed in the comments to be the Nile River. And the caption on the video reads, "Happy to say that I am alive and well and officially out of Khartoum." And the OP links a video to them, driving over the bridge. And nothing short of just, relieving. After reading that last post, I really thought it could have been the OP's last words. I thought the OP could have, gotten killed on that journey out. But thank God they survived. And many people in the comments say, "Girl, I'm crying watching this video. This is the best news. We have all been so worried about you and your family." Another user says, "I'm so happy for you. I hope you all get to go where you're going safely. You're in our hearts and minds." And then 5 months later, someone asked the OP how they're doing, and the OP replies and says, "Thank you so much. Me and my family are doing okay." And this is just one of the most horrifying Reddit threads I have ever read. As we're going through this, we can see the escalation of the civil war, how the OP says, "Oh, it's just starting. It's scary, but we should be okay." And then fast forward a post or two, and the OP says that their housekeeper was R-worded to death with a glass bottle. How horrifying is that? No one should ever have to witness that. And for a 19-year-old girl, to have to witness and endure this and take care of her parents. Like, that is a burden no one should be carrying. It is just heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking and horrible. But thank God that the OP and her family escaped, hopefully safe, and are in, somewhere safer now, and they stay safe. But truly, this was just one of the most horrifying and just truly scary Reddit threads I have ever read. I mean, I really hope the OP is doing better now, and the OP's family. And I hope that other families in Sudan right now who are in a similar position can escape, hopefully unscathed and safe, because the Sudan civil war started in 2023 and it is currently still ongoing. My 21 male girlfriend, who is 20 female, was R-worded while in the process of cheating on me. I don't know what to do from here. I've been sitting here for like 15 minutes trying to figure out how to start this. My head is completely spinning. My thoughts are just all over the place. I guess with some backstory. I've been dating Sarah, not using real names, for just under 2 years now. She has a close friend, John, who she's known since she was a child. I never liked him. He was always a little creepy, blatantly flirted with Sarah for the entirety of our relationship and made occasional passes that I was not comfortable with. So, cut to like 2 weeks back. Sarah and I were invited to a gathering/party by a mutual friend. I had a workshop for work that night, so I couldn't attend, and with current circumstances, I was never going to be inclined to go anyways. I didn't want Sarah to go either, but she was very adamant, and I guess I didn't want an argument, so I said fine. We ended up running into John later that day, and he mentioned the same party and asked us if we had been invited as well. My girlfriend told him she was going, but I wasn't, and he got this weird smile on his face, and he said something along the lines of, "If you're going, I guess I have to go too." Just something about his smile and the way he really said it rubbed me the wrong way. Plus, I didn't want to be possessive, but the idea of both of them together all night at a party did not sit well with me. After we got back to our apartment, I told her, a bit more firmly this time, that I'm not comfortable with her going to a party, especially with him there. She told me I was overreacting and shut down the conversation after that. I'm sure most of you can figure out where this is going. I went to the workshop and she went to the party. It got to be like 2 a.m. and she hadn't gotten home nor was answering my calls. Naturally, I was incredibly worried. About an hour later, one of her friends called me and told me she was found unconscious at the party and driven to the hospital. She was R-worded by John. After spending 2 days, including that night at the hospital, and talking with police, I took her home. She told me John had drugged her and dragged her upstairs where it happened in one of the bedrooms. The house the party was at is very large. She was an absolute mess. She didn't want to go outside. She wasn't eating, had terrible nightmares. I did everything I could to comfort her through this process. I was devastated for her and hated to see her like this, but, and I know this makes me sound like a terrible person, I don't blame her for John assaulting her, but I couldn't get the fact I tried more than once to dissuade her from going to the party. And specifically saying her being with John makes me uncomfortable out of my head. I feel like I could have done more to protect her, and she should have listened to how I felt. Important side note, turns out John is literal living garbage. After her assault, we both felt it was best to get justice. There were drugs in her system and all the physical indications of R-word. We immediately filed a restraining order and the police opened an investigation. Within the span on a week after news had gotten around, 2 other girls came forward with similar encounters with John. So this guy is basically a serial R-wordist. And cut to now. My girlfriend is still in no better shape than she was 2 weeks ago. She gets panic attacks out of nowhere. She's lost like 15 pounds and absolutely refuses to leave our apartment, even to seek therapy. I was committed to taking care of her and being there for her, but I got a call from one of my close friends, Sam, this morning. It was a long conversation, but it basically boiled down to him, as well as many others at the party that night, saw Sarah flirting with John the entire beginning of the party. According to him and people he had been talking to, she was at the very least matching, if not being the initiator in these exchanges with John. He also recounts that she wasn't blackout drunk or seemingly that out of it, and worst of all, many saw her holding John's hand, taking John upstairs. At this point, I feel like I want to vomit. He told me he wanted the situation to cool down a bit before telling me, and was going to tell me after the party what happened, but with her being taken to the hospital under the circumstances, he didn't feel it was the right time. I decided to not assume anything and asked her about the specifics about what happened that night. She tried to tell me the same thing, that she was drugged and dragged to a bedroom, but when I told her what Sam had told me, the color completely drained from her face. She started to panic, and I did my best to calm her down, but it was at least 30 minutes before she could catch her breath to speak. She was sobbing, but she was coherent enough to understand and basically confessed to cheating on me. She said she was drunk and hadn't been out for so long, and she wanted some adventure. She admitted she was the one that took John to the bedroom and wasn't dragged there against her will. She kept apologizing and saying it was a terrible mistake and that nothing else was a lie. He did R-word her. I believe the last part, as far as I can understand now. It was when they were in the bedroom fooling around when he slipped something into her or something like that. Then he forced himself onto her. I don't know what to do anymore. She was R-worded, but to me, the everything before that was her still intending to cheat and actively cheating on me. I am devastated, and I don't even want to look at her right now. I left the apartment and am currently at Sam's house. I don't know anything anymore. She lost her job to the pandemic. I pay rent for the apartment where her name isn't on the lease and groceries. She's become completely emotionally dependent on me the past few weeks. If I did break up with her, she would have nowhere to go. And as much as I resent her, I don't want something terrible happening to her. Please help. I need advice, and I don't know what to do. Edit. There's been a lot of responses in a short time, so I thought it would be best to address some things here. First off, I've been made aware that 2 posts of somewhat similar situations have been posted to the sub in the past 2 weeks or so. I don't know what I could post here to prove this is true without exposing my privacy, so I'm sorry, but all I can do is give you my word. I'm just here looking for advice. I don't think this is something someone should be fantasizing about for a karma farm. It's completely upended my life. Second thing is people questioning Sarah's account of the events. I didn't include every detail because I'm trying to get my thoughts out, but her story matches the other 2 women who came forward in terms of the pattern of John's behavior. The 2 other women were also initially in a consensual environment before he drugged them and did something. From what they've said and posted, a large part of the reason they didn't come forward was because it started as consensual and they thought that would make them not be believed. I also don't want to get too graphic, but the nature of Sarah's assault was very violent and not something most anybody would consent to. That may be why he drugs them first as well. She had and still has traces of large bruises around her neck and other parts of her body, as well as scratches and gashes. I don't really doubt at all she was indeed assaulted. The drug found in her system was K. While Sarah did enjoy partying, she never did anything harder than weed. Third, Sarah has been living abroad for school since starting college. Her parents have been made aware of the situation, but coming from a very religious background while concerned for her well-being, aren't exactly being supportive, nor have been put in the effort to come see her. She never had many close friends for as long as I've known her, other than John. I don't know where she would go if I told her she can't stay at my apartment. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, OP, I'm so very sorry that you're going through this. A very similar thing happened to my friend in college. Almost eerily similar. And at the time, the police told my friend that it's actually relatively common. Without getting too graphic, some drugs can be administered physically without, say, slipping it into someone's drink. My friend was being flirty. They went to hook up and the guy drugged her. Another friend that was with her called me, panicked because she couldn't find her. Once I got there, sober, obviously, I pitched a fit of epic proportions and refused to leave without checking every room, or I'd be calling the police to look instead. The condition we found her in was severe. Very few people would consent to that kind of physical damage. Because I took her to the hospital, and the extent of damage, her boyfriend obviously found out, and then later found out that her intention was to cheat. It was a horrific situation for everyone involved. They lived together off campus. Their lives were super entangled. My friend no longer felt safe alone. And no matter how much we wanted to support her, she didn't feel safe with us. I guess she didn't think we could physically protect her. I don't know. So she depended on her boyfriend 24/7, and he was absolutely wrecked emotionally, both from what happened to her and how betrayed he felt. He told her he would support her as someone who cared about her, and they'd reassess their relationship later. It took almost 6 months before she returned to school, and in the end, they didn't stay together. Only you know what you can handle, OP. It's obvious that you care about this girl. 2 weeks is just a tiny flash of time when dealing with the aftermath of this kind of violent assault. I suggest finding her a therapist who will do Zoom appointments. As much as you resent what she initiated, she will literally never forgive herself for putting herself in this position in the first place, and she no doubt feels fathoms of shame and guilt already. If you can allow her to stay with you for a few weeks of therapy at least, that's wonderful. Perhaps look into victims' benefits where you are located. They should pay for therapy at a minimum. In California, we have Victim Witness. Also look into hooking her up with a victim's advocate. Honestly, your girlfriend may not even be in an emotional state to make any decisions on how to move out if that's what you need. A victim advocate can help her. If you can bear it, just be there. Be kind, and give her a bit of time to recover before you give her the boot. She's not entitled to anything from you, but you sound like a good person. Try to be her friend for a while, if nothing else. It sounds like she literally has no one else. Hugs. And someone else says, wow, I think you need to step away from this relationship. At the very least, she did lie and cheat on you. No matter how it ended, she did lie and cheat. I'm terribly sorry for how it ended for her, and I'm sorry she got hurt. There is never an excuse to do that to anyone. So I can't even imagine what she is going through. That isn't an excuse to cheat and lie, though. And someone replies and says, agreed. OP should likely end this since she fully admits to intending to cheat. Although it is terrible what happened afterwards, it doesn't discount what she did before. However, and this is important, I believe that she will likely frame such a scenario as, my boyfriend broke up with me because I was R-worded. And I don't think that this is a massive stretch, since she has already demonstrated that she can be deceitful through her unfaithfulness, in which case OP had better be prepared to be seen as the bad guy in the aftermath, as people will also likely side with her over him. All conjecture though. And someone else says, probably going to be unpopular, but I'd say break up with her. What happened to her was horrible, but you shouldn't date a cheater. Rather than dating her, maybe stay by her side as a friend. Get her into therapy if she isn't already. But yeah, that's not a good relationship to keep going forward. And then the OP comes back 2 weeks later, and let's get into it. Hey everyone, sorry I've taken so long for this update and lack of replies on the previous post. I needed some time to sort out the situation, but I did read as many replies as I could, and I appreciate all the advice and messages, especially from those who had been put in similar situations as I. I guess I should start by clearing a few things up. First off, to everyone who thought my story had holes in it, it definitely did, and I'm sorry for that. At the time, and even now, I was missing a lot of information and was filling in holes as best as I could with what I had. I also didn't want the post to get too long, so I left out information that I guess would have painted a better picture of my situation. I'll try my best to include those missing details. If you're just interested in the update, skip down a few paragraphs. So, details about John. He is part of Sarah and I's social circle and lives quite close to us. Some of the behavior from John towards Sarah that made me uncomfortable throughout the course of our relationship included constantly making comments about her body, putting his arm around her every chance he could, asking her to go with him on trip to Europe last summer, just the two of them, poking her breasts when she's wearing tight clothing, and saying things like, "I'm lucky I met her when I did," or "she would have been with him by now," etc. It's not any one thing, but a culmination of everything that made me uncomfortable with her spending a lot of time with him. She never encouraged this behavior, at least when I was around, but didn't actively discourage it either, despite we openly talking to her about my boundaries. She just brushed it off as them knowing each other for so long and being comfortable with one another. A few smaller details I guess were relevant I should mention. One, we are not in the US. The pandemic, while still obviously an issue in our country, in our area is relatively pandemic free. And everyone going to the party Sarah went to were part of our larger social circle. It was at a large condo a friend of ours was renting for the summer. It was not some open invite party with 100+ people. Still dumb, I know. There were 30-ish, maybe 40 people there, so in hindsight, yeah, no one should have been at the party to begin with. Lastly, clearing up both Sarah and I's financial situation. I am lucky enough to have my parents paying for my tuition, whatever scholarships didn't cover, so I can focus my resources on just day-to-day living costs like rent, groceries, etc. Sarah, on the other hand, was pretty much thrown to the wolves after finishing high school. Her parents, like I stated in my edit, are very religious and very controlling. So they told Sarah they were only going to pay for her schooling if she went to a local college. She refused and came to my school. She lived in residency for her first 2 years, which was covered by financial aid. I got my apartment about a year ago, and with the pandemic and her not wanting to go back home, we decided it would be best if she moved in with me. Her finances are basically completely tied up on tuition and student loans, so I offered to keep paying full rent despite her living with me full time. And now onto the actual update. Oh boy. I wish I could say things have gotten more clear in the past week, but honestly, it's been a total cluster F, and it's only gotten worse. I spent a few days at Sam's reaching out to friends, trying to get a clear picture of what happened that night before going back to talk to Sarah. I got told the same story multiple times, that she was the only one who started flirting with John and he led him upstairs. I should say right now, in my first conversation with Sarah, confronting her, she didn't explicitly say she had intended to sleep with him that night. She just confirmed she took him upstairs. She was basically having a panic attack throughout the entire conversation, so I had a hard time pushing for clarity. So, by this point in my heart, I was trying to find any excuse at all for her to save our relationship, but my mind was telling me that the relationship was over, at least for the time being. But as many of you commented, despite my obviously grief in losing a 2-year relationship, I decided I would be willing to let her stay in my apartment again, rent-free, to at least the end of October, to sort out other living arrangements and support. I called her about 3 days ago, after staying at Sam's, and told her I'm willing to listen to her side of the story, but I need the complete truth about everything. And she agreed, so I went back to my apartment later that evening. We sat down and I asked her about what really happened that night. She started crying right away, but not panicking, and told she had to tell me something about herself. Sarah has always been into the partying scene more than me. I've never really been comfortable around drugs in that environment in general, but I went with her anyways about once a month or so. Her, on the other hand, would have girls' nights out and parties pretty much every weekend. Right at the beginning of our relationship, I told her I'm not really comfortable being with someone that is involved with hard drug use. My brother has a history of addiction, and I've seen what it can do to somebody and the people around them. She told me that's fine since she only drinks and smokes weed occasionally. Well, it turns out for about a year now, she started doing harder drugs at parties when I'm not there. And her girls' nights were often just her and some from our social circle, John included, going to a friend's apartment to do mushrooms. I was shocked to say the least, and I didn't even know what to think in that moment. I just tried to ask her more about what happened on the night she was assaulted, and if she was intending on cheating on me that night. She comes clean and tells me she did lead John upstairs, but swears she wasn't trying to sleep with him, but wanted drugs. He told her it was booger sugar, but obviously it was not. Since only F, I can't say the drug, but F, it's the notorious drug that makes people lean over, and alcohol showed up in her system at the hospital. She told me he immediately started to kind of come towards her, and she tried to fight him off, but eventually she was too drugged out to fight back. After consoling her for a while, I asked her what her relationship with John was really like before, and if they did anything together before what happened that night. She admitted that they had made out a few times before, around Christmas last year, but promised it didn't go any further than that. She was begging me to forgive her and that she needs me in her life. That she was just in a rebellious phase because of her upbringing. I didn't know what to believe anymore, and still don't, to be honest. I just was completely overwhelmed by everything. So I told her I needed to clear my head and left again. Sam was nice enough to let me stay at his place again. I talked to some of my friends she said she was doing drugs with, and they confirmed. I was pretty upset at them for hiding it from me, but they told me she basically forced them to keep it a secret from me. It feels like so much of my relationship was a lie. She wasn't the person I thought she was, and she lied constantly for who knows how long. At this point, my mind is basically made up, so I call her and told her it's over. But she can stay at my apartment until the end of October, but only if she finds a therapist and gets help during that time. She basically lost it during the call. But my mind was made up, so I just said I'd be staying at Sam's for a while and hung up. I wish that was the last of the stuff that happened, but literally a day after that, I start getting spammed with hate messages and calls from friends, relatives, and people I don't even know. Turns out, she's posted all over social media about how I was breaking up with her because she was R-worded and was kicking her out with nowhere to go in these pandemic times. She also wrote that I've been emotionally abusing her after her assault, victim blaming her, and stopping her from getting a therapist. I'm completely lost. I'm furious, heartbroken. I can't even describe all the emotions I felt. I called her again that night and told her she has 2 weeks to move out now, and I don't want to hear from her again. I had to spend the past week playing damage control, trying to clear my name on social media, calling friends and family. I was ostracized by coworkers, though luckily my boss was on my side. I was getting doxxed, death threats. My life basically fell apart. Sam, thank God, was completely understanding through all of this and said I could stay at his place until Sarah moved out. She's moving out on Friday, but I don't want to go back to that apartment anymore. I've had to cut out friends. My reputation is now in the garbage. I lost the first and only person I've ever loved. I don't know anymore. I low-key want to do something drastic, but I'll find a therapist sooner or later. I just feel numb to everything. I don't even know if I'm right or wrong in this situation anymore. I hope I haven't rambled on too much. I know this post is really long, but thank you, really, for everyone who showed support in the last post. It meant a lot. Edit. Someone's comment made me realize she was still lying to me the second time I talked to her. She changed her story about what she was drugged with, and I didn't even realize. I was not told by the hospital what she had in her system, and I'm not very knowledgeable on drugs in general. All that information I had came from Sarah. I don't even know if she was drugged against her will at this point anymore. God, I'm doubting everything now. This is not the person I thought she was. I don't even care. She's out of my life now. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, yo man, this whole situation is screwed up. But right now, you gotta worry about yourself and not the friends, the apartment, or even her. I know it sounds dumb, but those kind of thoughts can turn south really quick. Do you have a friend you can maybe crash with for a few days, or someone you can sit down and talk to? If not, feel free to reach out to me, man. Even if you just want to mess around, but no one should be alone after going through something like this. And the OP just replies and says, thanks, man. I have a good friend I can stay with for the time being. I really appreciate the offer. I'm still trying to put pieces back together at the moment. I'll reach out if I need. And someone else replies and says, dude, not to be callous, but you have bigger fish to fry. She publicly accused you of abuse. That can go south pretty quickly. You need to consult an attorney about combating the claims she's made against you, because those could lead to criminal charges. Generally speaking, a cease and desist letter from a lawyer should be enough to get her to take things off of social media and revoke the claims. Best of luck. And someone else says, oh my God. While reading this, I actually thought this girl you loved is human garbage, but felt a little bad because maybe she was really truthful. But nope. You reject her and boom, she goes nuts. I'm sorry, my man. Nobody should have to endure what you're going through. I wish you the best of luck. I hope you can get over all this someday. On a side note, the friends she did drugs with and covered her, you said they were your friends as well. They are not. And someone else says, if your friends believe her without listening to your side of the story, they weren't real friends to begin with. I know it has to be hard, but use this as an opportunity to hit the reset button and start over. You will find love again. I promise. Stay with Sam for a while and allow yourself time to get it all figured out. Look into getting a different apartment, the options for breaking your lease, etc. If she was stupid enough to make the posts on social media, print them out or take a screenshot of them. Depending on what she said, you might be able to sue her for defamation of character. Oh, and make sure she pays for her share of the rent or lease breaking fee while you're at it. And the OP replies and says, yeah, they were always more her friends than they were mine. I see that now. I mean, they would go out together way more often because I'm not much of a party person. I know who has my back now. And man, just what a mess of a situation. I mean, the OP just got their life basically ruined. I mean, their girlfriend got apparently R-worded, and he just tried his best to console her and help her out and help her recover. And it turns out she was lying to him, and he doesn't even know what's true. We don't even know what's true anymore. And when he says, hey, you lied to me, you cheated on me, I think our relationship is done. He even offered to let her stay for 2 months after, and then she posted all of these horrible things on her social media, calling him an abuser. I mean, like, this guy got his entire life turned upside down just like that. And I mean, it truly is heartbreaking because this guy was just trying to be a supportive boyfriend, help his girlfriend out, figure out the situation, try to reach the truth of it. He was being understanding, talking to people, trying to figure out the truth and not jumping to conclusions. And his girlfriend just flips on him, tries to ruin his life, make all his friends turn on him, etc. I mean, it really is sad. And also, I hope John goes to jail because, I mean, there's 3 victims of John now, 2 that have spoken out, and Sarah. And hopefully this whole scenario doesn't mess up him being able to go to jail, if that makes sense. Some people in the comment section were worried about that. They're like, hopefully this whole mess doesn't mess up that other stuff and doesn't obstruct the justice, which hopefully it doesn't. But I mean, it's so sad for all the victims, and hopefully they can get justice soon. And the OP, I mean, their life just got turned upside down, and just a horrible hot mess of a situation. And we have never received another update. So I wonder what ended up happening with this entire situation. What happened to John? Did he go to jail? What happened to the OP? What happened with his ex-girlfriend, etc.? I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions, but man, this was one hell of a Reddit thread. My 32 female boyfriend, who is 34 male, murdered several houseplants in the span of one afternoon and is mad that I am sad about it. And trust me, guys, this one gets dark, but the post reads as follows. So I have a green thumb, and I've spent a lot of time, energy, and money on plants. One particular plant reproduces by creating little offshoots that grow off of it until they become mature and grow their own root systems. I've had this plant for many, many years and have been so happy to see it finally making little babies. This afternoon, my boyfriend ripped more than half the babies off of the plant and threw them in the dumpster outside. I just discovered this less than 20 minutes ago. The plant is mutilated since he ripped these things off, leaving large areas stripped of leaves and some vines that have no chance of recovery and will have to be cut off at the base. I looked through the trash for the baby plants to see if I could maybe save some of them, but they're gone. I just confronted him about this, and he sounded very annoyed and said, "I didn't know you have to wait so long for it to make more of those." I'm devastated that he killed all those baby plants and badly injured the adult plants. I feel so sad about it, but he doesn't seem to care and is just playing games. I'm furious that he mutilated a plant without asking or telling me, especially since he has no knowledge about plants at all. He claims he thought he was helping it. What should I do? And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, please leave him. I too was in the same situation. He destroyed my houseplants, which I had spent hours on, by pouring bleach on them after a fight when I had left the apartment to get back at me. We are 24 female and 29 male. And I'm telling you right now that your man knew they were important to you, and this is a major red flag. My best advice would be to get out while you can, and before you're in a situation where it escalates to something other than your houseplants. Like it did for me literally 2 months after that incident, where I ended up with 17 stitches in my face, unable to work for 3 weeks, and almost $5,000 in medical debt for my ER visit. I understand you might care for him deeply, and it will be hard, but I'm worried that if you forgive him, you're sending the message that something like that is okay in the future. Don't waste any more of your time or resources on someone who doesn't respect things that mean a lot to you. It's like directly clowning on you, which is something that shouldn't be okay or done by someone who loves you ever. And the OP then replies and says, "Yikes. Oh my God. I'm glad you got out of that situation. I will consider what you say." And another user says, "Leave, leave, leave. I had a boyfriend like this once who tried to ruin things that belonged to me whenever he was angry enough to feel justified. A sure sign of extremely poor emotional boundaries and judgment." And another user says, "Kick his ass to the curb." And then we don't get an update for 2 years. But the OP comes back with a chilling update. This update is titled, "My boyfriend murdered several houseplants in the span of one afternoon and is mad that I am sad about it. Update: he has now killed my cat." So a few years ago, I posted about how my boyfriend, M34 at that time, had utterly mangled several baby plants and one adult plant with no remorse whatsoever. I wanted to update you all on what happened afterward. Well, several of you told me to run. Reddit, you were right. About a year after that, we broke up when it was clear he had been lying to me about some huge, important relationship issues that will not be central to this post. Marriage, money, our shared business, other women, etc. After we had the final blow-up fight and I left, things got worse, and his true colors came through again. I should have listened to your warnings. This time, the victim was one of my cats. I had 2 cats, a calico and her baby, a fluffy tuxedo cat. This tuxedo cat was my absolute darling, and I adored him more than anything else that breathed. Unfortunately, my now ex knew this. When I decided to leave him, I packed up my suitcase and booked it to my friend's house. So he decided to poison my cat. He called me saying the cat was ill, so I drove to the veterinary hospital immediately. When I received the lab results, the vet outright said, "It looks like he's been poisoned." His kidney levels were literally off the charts, as in the machine could not longer accurately even read how high they were. The vet described it as, quote, "His kidneys are basically solid." I had a previous cat who had a genetic condition that predisposed him to kidney disease, and at 14 he died from it. When he passed, his kidney levels were nowhere remotely near as bad as this previously 100% healthy 6-year-old cat. Hours later, I had to decide to put him down. I called the hospital and gave them the address where I wanted the ashes shipped. Before they were shipped, ex-boyfriend went and picked them up. He denied me having the ashes, saying I owed him the entirety of the cat's final veterinary bill before he would even let me have the ashes. I never received them. When I tried to pick up my other cat, the calico, he said he would only give her to me if I paid him $1,500. Feeling I had no legal way to reacquire my cat, I cut my losses to get away from him and moved across the state. I wish that was half of it, and it was certainly the most horrible thing he did. He made every attempt he could to ruin all my social connections and went out of his way to extort and harass me, including showing up to the place I had been sheltered and demanding to come inside, and texting those inside to come out, thus me having to move so far away. I lost my relationship, my home city, several friendships, and both of my cats in the span of 3 weeks. He harassed me, my now boyfriend, and several of my friends via text for well over a year. He is now blocked by nearly all of us. I post this as a warning for everyone who posts here with similar stories. Yes, Reddit is quick to jump to suggesting breakups, but when people tell you, yikes, OMG, huge red flag, etc., maybe they are right. Don't ignore the red flags like I did. I wish I'd left with my cats and run home to the other side of my state the same day he destroyed and killed my plants. I let myself think it was a one-off thing. Obviously, it wasn't. I'm still emotionally and financially recovering from this, and I can never bring back my cat or recover my other cat. The good news is I'm now doing way better. I have a new supportive and loving boyfriend, and he got me a new cat. He loves me, and we just bought a house together. Life is actually pretty peachy, but it only started to get better when I completely cut the last guy out of my life. I'm honestly doing pretty well for myself, and can't wait for what this new year brings. Thanks for trying to help me, Reddit. As long as I waited, I'm still glad that your voices were in the back of my mind, helping to enforce the decision when I finally did leave. You guys and gals are awesome. Happy 2023. Edit. Some people have asked why I left my other cat with him. I didn't. He stole her. I attempted to reacquire several times, as the vet bills for her were in his name. It is very hard to prove legally that she is my cat. I adopted her, cared for her, fed her every day, etc., but that doesn't hold up in court the way names on a vet bill will. From my limited understanding of property and pet law, I'm not a lawyer and could be wrong, and I'm open to that. He refused to give her to me, at first asking for money, and then simply refusing. A friend even offered to help me break in and get her. However, I am in a state where it is legal to shoot if you enter a person's property unannounced, and further, I'm not interested in breaking and entering charges, nor charges of pet theft. Believe me, I want her and fear for her every day. I tried as best as I could, but all my further options are illegal. Suggestions for legal acquisition are welcome, but please, no more emails of disgust that I left her with him. Believe me, I already hurt over it. Edit number 2, also the question, why didn't I call the cops, is coming up. 100% because I was scared. Previous times I've called the cops have not been great interactions. Doesn't seem to matter to them what was happening before they showed up if the dude says everything is fine when they arrive. I just fled. Surely the statute of limitations for something like this has not passed. I'm not a legal expert and don't know anything about animal abuse laws. I've been focusing on getting to safety and going to therapy. Of course, I think what he did was illegal, but not everybody can just call the cops in every situation. This was scary, so I fled. I could get a lawyer to advise me in the future, and of course, I want justice for my cat. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, wait, so within a year of leaving a horrifically abusive relationship, you get into a new relationship and bought a pet and house together? OP, please be careful. Hopefully this new guy is a dreamboat and it's fine and this is an overreaction, but that's not a lot of time being single to adjust to a healthy normal in the 2 years since your first post. It's very common for toxic men to date women who have just left unhealthy or abusive relationships because it's easy to swoop in and be the good guy just by being better than the abusive ex. And as long as they stay better than the ex, they can get away with being toxic in their own way. Abusive relationships mess with our minds and our sense of normal. which is why toxic people like to date people who have just left abusive situations. Hopefully, I'm overreacting, but buying a house and a pet within 18 months of dating is very fast-paced, especially without that year being single to focus on healing and being okay by yourself after that ordeal. And another user says, get the veterinary report. Give it to the cops. The boy needs serious jail time. And this ended up being the OP's last ever post because the OP's profile has since been deleted, but this post was from 4 years ago, so hopefully from that time and within that time, the OP's ex-boyfriend has since been arrested and is in jail for hopefully a very, very long time. Need help with serial prowler. Originally posted to r/RBI, and the post reads as follows. Hello. My husband and I discovered a prowler walking around the back of our townhouse a few nights ago. We later discovered he had been here 6 weeks earlier, at almost exactly the same time. We are furious and terrified. We effed up by not being diligent by closing blinds / keeping a light on back there and not paying great attention to our security cameras. I will admit this. We have since remedied all of those issues, seriously beefed up our security, placed more cameras, etc. After getting a lot of great suggestions from locals on Nextdoor / my brother, who is in law enforcement, we called the police right after it happened and shared the second piece of footage as soon as we discovered it. We shared these videos with all of our neighbors and provided them with the same tips we received, along with dowels for their sliding glass doors. We have the means to protect ourselves, and I am proficient in using those means. We cannot have dogs here, or I would have gotten one immediately. My fear is this. The police just accepted the footage, advised they will pay attention to the area, and advised us to keep calling when he comes back, given the repeated peeping incidents. I fear that he will escalate, and who's to say it won't be next time. I am terrified, and I would love any / all advice on how to navigate this or figure out who this is. So far, we have done the following. Shared this footage with our apartment complex, police, neighbors, and Nextdoor. No one has recognized him yet. Shared our contact info with all neighbors and provided them with tools / help fortifying their own townhouses. Gone to the apartment complexes nearby to share the footage to see if they recognize him. No luck yet. Reached out to our local news station in hopes they will get the word out. They have passed it along to their reporters. And fortified all exterior windows / doors and installed motion activated lighting / additional cameras. And then the OP gives 2 links to the footage, and let's react to it. This is my first time seeing it, and let's see it. All right, so we see that this is the OP's backyard, it looks like, with a sliding glass door, and immediately I have goosebumps. There is this guy walking up to the OP's back door, I assume. I don't know what time this is. Oh, it looks like 11:17 at night. And this guy is just peering into their window, which is terrifying. I have goosebumps all over. This weirdo just walked up, peered inside, and looks like he's walking away. Looks like he walks back, and he continues on. It looks like he has a mask on, and yeah, I guess people can't recognize him. And then let's get into the OP's second piece of footage. Oh, wow, we see this guy walking up immediately. He puts on a mask, and once again, he's just creeping around, and he just looks, oh, this time, he like kind of gets spooked, it looks like. But he's like looking for something. I assume this is like the OP's like living room. I mean, that's where most sliding doors go, unless it's like their bedroom has a sliding door. But yeah, this guy just peers in. I think he looks up and maybe sees the OP or hears something, and he tries to get out of there. But that is just horrifying. I mean, so scary how this creep is just lurking around the OP's backyard. I mean, that is so effed up. And hopefully the OP can call the police and they can do something about this, and hopefully this guy leaves them alone. But let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, I get wanting to have him get caught, but one of my first instincts would be to print out and tape up a sign inside the window saying, smile, you're on camera, and the police have been notified. I do like the idea of motion lights. I also wonder if it would be worth looking into a motion-activated sound recording. While you can't have dogs, what about an audio clip of a German Shepherd barking? Another user says, the fact that he masks up before peeking in is pretty disturbing. Luckily, I would think the motion lights would scare a guy like this off. He doesn't want to be seen. Stay safe. And someone else says, motion-activated lights. Creepers hate them and will usually run when they activate. He clearly knows about the cameras and thinks he's clever with the surgical mask. He also appears to be someone who would blend into a suburban environment, which makes him even creepier in my opinion. Seriously though, get the brightest motion-activated lights you can find. They're good for not only running off weirdos like this, but also alerting you and possibly even your neighbors immediately, giving you a much better chance of responding. He feels safe in the dark. Take it away from him. And someone else says, yeah, F that. Dude is thinking about breaking in. Hasn't seen a specific reason yet. Make changes ASAP. Bright motion sensor lights are a start. Lights on indoors and curtains, I'd say, are next. And God, that is just so terrifying. And unfortunately, you guys, I hate to have to say this, but the OP never gave us an update. So I don't know what ended up happening, but those footage clips are scary enough. And God, it's just so scary. And also for future kind of things like that I react to, if you'd like to see me with a camera and kind of a face cam of sorts, where I can have my own reaction while reading to these stories, if this video gets 10,000 likes, I'll start introducing myself and my face to these videos. I think it could be a cool addition. But yeah, anyways, back to kind of about the story. This story is so scary, and I really hope the OP stays safe, because who knows what this guy wants to do. Is he just a creeper that kind of gets off to peering into people's, living rooms or houses? Or is he planning something even more sinister, such as scoping out on when to break in? And who knows if he's armed? Who knows what sort of mentality he's in? If he's crazy, if he'll kill you, who knows? I mean, people like this are psychopaths enough, but hopefully this guy just stops, or the police arrest him and he goes away for a long time, because this is just so scary and just psychopathic. A stranger on the internet, 34 male, messaged me, 18 female, to let me know that my boyfriend, 19 male, and I are all over a couples swapping website. Throwaway, because all of my friends know my main account. And I'm sorry if the grammar in this post is all over the place. It's late here, and I'm kind of freaking out. For the sake of privacy, I'm going to call my boyfriend Ryan and the guy who messaged me Craig. Some background. I've been with Ryan for 6 months. The relationship is fun and great. Now, let's just get straight into it. I was browsing social media before bed when Facebook alerted me that a non-friend was requesting to send me a message. Curious, I opened it and was greeted with a shock. He stopped replying after my second question. Craig, so heard that you two are into couple swapping, etc. LOL. Me. What? Craig, Y'all are all over a site for that. Not trying to be a creep at all or odd about it. This would be our first time doing anything like that. Me. Can you send me screenshots of that stuff? Sorry if I sound rude. I don't think you're creepy. It's just that, as far as I know, my partner and I aren't on any sites for swapping or anything else intimate. Ryan isn't picking up his phone. It's late. I think that someone might have taken our images and put them on some sort of meetup website, and I have no idea what the ETC entailed. And since we were contacted by a man in his 30s, the site must say that we're older than the 18/19-year-old kids we are. I'm also scared because Craig's profile says that he is from the same city that Ryan and I are from. So whatever site we're on has our relative location on it. Maybe Ryan has something to do with it? I want to know how I should proceed from here. Please help. Update. So after posting this last night, I was exhausted and fell asleep. Craig messaged me again a half hour ago and then stopped responding. I'm hoping for screenshots soon. These are the texts. Craig said, "Sorry, I was asleep. I'll try to find that stuff. My wife and I deleted our profile." Me. "Yeah, sorry about this mess. I don't know how this could happen unless there was bots or my boyfriend was trying to cheat on me." Craig. "No, he wasn't trying to cheat. The profiles had both of you." At this point, I'm afraid it's Ryan. I don't want it to be. He won't answer my text. And then the OP makes another update the next day, and it reads as follows. "Thank you to everyone who has responded. Number 1, something I didn't make clear in the original post is that the first message from Craig was from early January. I hadn't seen it until last night because my Facebook settings have it, so I only get alerted to messages from people who aren't my friends, nor I have given permission to talk to me when I'm in the app or on the website. Last night was the first time I had gone on Facebook in about a month. Number 2, at this point, I'm just waiting to hear back from Ryan still. I'm leaning towards Craig is just some creep, but Ryan's silence is becoming increasingly worrying. I still am going to check similar sites to make sure none of my pictures are being used. I will update again when this is all figured out." And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, "As a couple that regularly participate in similar sites, this kind of stuff is incredibly common. A guy likes the idea of intimate chat and fantasizing about either a 3-person intimacy or swapping. So he'll create a profile without his significant other's knowledge and pretending to be on there with his significant other and chat with other couples. It's incredibly frustrating as real couples looking for other couples and incredibly common. They are pretty easy to figure out after some experience also. The way it normally happens is we start chatting with a couple. After a couple of days, we realize that we've only communicated with the male half. We ask for the 2 women to voice verify via phone or Skype so we know both couples are who they say they are. Dude ghosts or deflects back to intimate talk. Reverse image search often leads to their Facebook profiles, or searching their email, or their names and location. Regardless, it's easy enough to find them since most guys that do this aren't exactly careful. At that point, a decision is made. Either we're pissed off enough at the dude that will contact his significant other over Facebook and rat him out, or we just make a note and move on. We actually once busted my cousin's best friend's fiance doing this. Tracked down the a-hole Facebook profile. Found he was a mutual friend with our cousin, and then found he was engaged to cousin's best friend. As we suspected, she didn't know he was doing this. So as a couple who have been on the other end of this, we're leaning towards your boyfriend being an a-hole rather than this being a scam. And the OP replies and says, "Well, how should I approach him about this? I don't have any evidence besides the messages from Craig." And the user replies back to the OP and says, "It's difficult. He has the trusty fallback that real couples that like other couples keep it in our pocket if anyone were to stumble across our profile on a site. The quote, "Oh crap, someone stole our pictures and made a fake profile." And yeah, it never happens. If people steal pics, it's not vanilla pics from Facebook, unless you two are Ken and Barbie with a very racy pictures on Facebook. Your pics weren't stolen. So you needed cooperation from Craig. You need to know which sites he found you guys on. Create a fake profile on that site and find other profiles in your area. Chances are you will stumble across the suspended account. Also browse the ads on Craigslist and see if any of the pics or descriptions match you guys. But really, without Craig's help, there's nothing you can do besides snooping on internet history on all PCs and phones. Hopefully, Craig will cooperate. Couples are big on honesty and consent. It's what differentiates us from cheaters. So hopefully he'll give you the details out of a sense of morality. There is always the chance that this is an innocent mistake. Maybe he tracked down the wrong person by mistake. But honestly, we've lived this exact scenario 3 times in the past year alone. It's very, very common for men to catfish couples. When we were new in the lifestyle and didn't know any better, we even had a few, "My wife can't make it tonight. Do you mind if it's just the 3 of us?" attempts. And then the OP replies and says, "Yeah, none of my pictures on Facebook even show my body in any capacity, only my face." And then the user replies back and says, "Without evidence, all you can do is tell your boyfriend what happened and gauge his response. Without assistance from Craig, you have nothing to go on. I just hope your boyfriend doesn't have intimate pictures of you, because we've been sent countless intimate pictures of wives and girlfriends by catfishing husbands and boyfriends. I really hope for your sake that I'm wrong and this is just a case of mistaken identity. Maybe we're just sour because it's happened to us so many times. I really hope so for your sake, but the circumstances sound just a bit too familiar." And someone else says, "That's deeply weird. I guess there are 3 likely explanations. Number 1, this guy's making things up. Is your profile picture you and your boyfriend of just you? Would a random person have any way to know you have a boyfriend? This sounds unlikely to me, but who knows? Number 2, some random person has made a profile for you guys. He or she likes getting messages but doesn't want to put their own picture up, or they want to cause chaos for you somehow. This is possible, I guess, but sounds unlikely. More likely if you have enemies. Number 3, your boyfriend likes getting these messages, or is doing it, but claims every time that you are suddenly unavailable. Does this sound likely to you? You know him, we don't. I would suspect websites normally have more than just a profile picture. Who has access to plenty of photos of you, including some at least slightly intimate ones?" And then the OP comes back the next day with an update, and let's get into it. The OP says, "Thank you all so much again. All of y'all have made this day easier. Also, I want to mention that I hope I never came across as shaming this community. All of y'all from that community were so kind and helpful. And my problem with all of this wasn't that the concept of that was scary, just the fact that my information and photos were being used without my knowledge. So let's get into it. Ryan ended up texting me that he wanted to see me. I got a bad vibe, so I asked him to call me instead. You all were right. It was him. Apparently, the fantasy of doing that with other couples was a special interest for him, and he used those sites to jerk it. I couldn't find the profiles of any of the sites because he had our ages of listed as 23 and 24, and I had been searching couples 18 and 19. Craig couldn't find our information because when Ryan received my text last night, he went into damage control mode and deleted everything. He had used inappropriate photos of me to lure people into chatting with him. I'm young and relatively attractive, so I guess it was good bait. I threatened to call and tell my dad, who is a sheriff, about all of this if he doesn't take down all of it. I'm meeting him at a coffee shop tomorrow to look through his phone and laptop to ensure all my photos are gone. Needless to say, we're done. Craig said he was sorry and that he didn't want to speak with me ever again, and that him and his wife only were interested in couple swapping because they thought Ryan and I were attractive. I still don't know how the F he found me on Facebook, and he stopped responding, so I blocked him. Today was kind of a horrible day. And then let's get into the top comments. One user says, OP, I read your updates and I'm so sorry that this has happened to you. Needless to say that I think it was very good that you so firmly decided to not give him another chance. I just feel that I have to say one more thing. I would tell your dad anyways. Even if Ryan shows you an empty phone and an empty laptop, you have no idea if he's made a backup somewhere, an extra hard drive, or a cloud service. Besides, your photos were out on the internet for God knows how long. There's a big chance that someone else has these photos on their computer now. There's a reason why posting images of unknown participants is illegal. I recommended that you tell your dad and report Ryan. And the OP replies and says, yeah, I'll definitely talk to my dad. It's going to be an awkward conversation, but you're right. Ryan did something terrible to me, and who knows who else he's stolen photos from. OP is hit by a lunatic while walking their dog. The original post is titled, I was hit by a lunatic while walking my dog yesterday. The police told me there were others that were hurt yesterday. I feel the need to compare stories. Are any of his other victims on Reddit? And the post reads as follows. The most insane thing that has ever happened to me occurred Sunday morning. I was walking my dog in Windsor Park when I noticed a white older hatchback driving on the wrong side of the road. There was a young couple walking their dog on the side of the road, and the white car started backing up. The couple walked faster around the corner, but still on the street. When the white car sped up and turned the corner, in reverse, clearly trying to hit them. He kept turning and went up onto the yard of the house on the corner, and the couple understandably started screaming. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I started running with my dog, and the couple screamed at me to call 911. I was so thunderstruck, it hadn't even occurred to me. I pulled out my phone and saw that the white car was heading towards me. I ran through my neighbor's yards with my dog, and the white car multiple times went over the curb and into a yard and then pulled away. At one point, he pulled into a driveway in my path and just glared at me. I don't remember how I got around him, but I kept running. He tried backing up to hit the couple, and then he came after me again. I heard him come up over the curb behind me, and I knew he was heading for me. I made it almost to my neighbor's door, about 15 feet away, when he struck me from behind and sent me flying. That asshole ran over my dog's leg, and my dog started screaming. I'm on the ground on my back, and I told myself, get up, he's going to kill you. I grabbed my glasses and shoes and pulled my limping dog into the carport. And during that time, the white car just drove off. Riding this feels unreal. The police arrested him not long after he hit me, and they told me he had had a spree that morning and others were hurt. I went to the ER to make sure I wasn't seriously hurt. Thankfully, I wasn't. And the nurses told me the perpetrator had been in the ER earlier and was now in jail. They also told me that there were several other people in the ER that he had hurt. They couldn't tell me how many or what happened to them, of course. I would like to communicate with the others if they are open to it. I think I need to know the whole story, as if somehow that will help me make sense of what happened. Are any of you others on Reddit? And no commenters that responded were involved, but let's get into some of the other comments. One user says, how the hell is this not on local news? And the OP says, to be honest, I hope this post gets an investigation by the local news. The police officer told me they would likely not be informing me of any other details, and that I probably just read about it in the Statesman. And another user says, lucky you escaped. Wishing you a speedy recovery. Is the dog okay? And the OP replies and says, thanks. Yes. The vet said his leg is bruised but not broken. And another user says, the driver needs to catch some assault with a deadly weapon charge. Maybe even some attempted murder just for kicks. People like this don't need to be in public. And then the OP gives us an update a whole year later. And let's get into it. It reads, it's now been a year, as of Sunday, since I and others were attacked. So I thought I would update everyone on what happened. After I posted my story, I was interviewed by 2 detectives from Austin PD. It was interesting being inside APD headquarters because it's dimly lit and very quiet in the hallways and interview rooms. I'm assuming it's because the detectives and officers are often in emotionally intense situations and the quiet and dark environment is the least stimulating for them. The detectives told me there were 6 other victims and they were interviewing us in descending order of severity. I was the 3rd, I think they interviewed. They recorded my statement about what happened and said they'd already had the suspect in a lineup and he had been identified by several other victims. They said he'd already been charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. When I asked the detectives why he wasn't being charged with attempted murder, and they said aggravated assault doesn't require proof of motive and is a little easier to prove in court. Then a day or 2 later, I think one of the local TV stations did a story and posted a photo of the perpetrator. That was the first time I'd seen a photo of him, and I recognized him immediately. I was glad my memory of him had been so clear. He had a shaved head with tattoos of what looks like snakes all over his scalp. He looked really frightening in the photo. And I remember one of the officers, I think, telling me he had a gun in the car. One random thing I remembered was the song that was playing in his car when he was attacking me. At first, being a child of the 80s, I thought he was playing Tom Tom Club's Genius of Love. It was surreal when he was attacking me, hearing a song from my youth that held such fond memories for me. Later, I heard the song Big D Energy, and I realized that the song was playing in his car because it samples Genius of Love, but it has more bass. Sorry if this is a disorganized post. It's still really trippy to be remembering all of this. The news wanted to interview me, but I decided I didn't want my clients to find out what happened to me by seeing my face on the news. I'm a psychotherapist, and I was worried about it upsetting them. Because I'm a therapist, I'm in a lot of my own therapy anyway. I got a lot of support from people I'm in my group with, as well, of course, my therapists, for months after the attack. I avoided walking my dog, who is fine by the way, although he gets a little skittish when we walk on our own block. Finally, I admitted myself that I have PTSD, and being trained in EMDR, I knew EMDR would be very helpful. It took a while, but as of the past few months, I can walk my dog in my neighborhood and feel fine. Whenever there's a white car, that's what the lunatic drove, that does anything out of the ordinary, like stopping in the middle of the street or turning in my general direction, I go immediately on alert and pay close attention to which direction I should run if I need to. I wouldn't say I'm afraid necessarily, but I am now keenly aware that when you walk on the street, you could get hit by a car. I'm okay with being on alert that way. I have been in touch with the young couple that the lunatic had first tried to attack on my street. They are lovely people who, sadly for me, moved out of the neighborhood. I've not spoken to any of the other victims. The DA's office did tell me last fall, I think September, that one of the victims was still having medical issues as a result of the attack. I really hope that person has made a complete recovery. The DA's office has been really great. They have kept me updated with the case. Last fall, they called me to tell me that the perpetrator has been found incompetent to stand trial. I really had mixed feelings about that. As a mental health professional, I had wondered if mental illness had been a part of the mix as to why we'd all been attacked. I do have some compassion for him because he looks like he's had a hard life. As a victim, I was pretty angry and afraid that he would somehow get off without being punished. The DA's office told me he would be held in a secure medical facility where they would try to help him recover from whatever was going on with him so that he would become competent to stand trial. Then this February, there was a competency hearing and he was found competent. That's all I know for now. I rarely ever post anything on Reddit, so I didn't know what to expect from my first post. I was really touched by all of the kind expressions of concern from so many people. Of the many comments and questions I received, there was not one inappropriate or unkind comment. It really meant a lot to me to receive such an outpouring of support. I want to thank the Reddit community for being so awesome. I'm exhausted from just living and working. And trust me, this one gets heartbreaking. This is just a vent. How the hell am I supposed to do this? I get up every day to work, to do things, to talk to my colleagues, even though I don't want to. I'm exhausted. These things suck the living energy out of me. They trigger me to a point of no return. I can't trust my manager either. How are people around me not aware that almost all jobs are toxic? Like, how do they do this? I'm trying all I can just to get by, to make money to live. When am I supposed to relax and actually live, though? The system is literally rigged against me. I can't leave my job because I need money to live. Before you say, just get a new job then. Please realize I would most likely just get another office job that would also suck. The interview process in itself is also triggering AF. I don't want to go through it again. I don't have a support network that would have my back if I lost my job either. So I try my best every day, but it's so hard. I'm anxious all the time to the point where I forget to eat and drink and have migraines. I am so burnt out from living and working. How the hell am I supposed to heal when I can't? If I stop working, there will be a gap on my resume and employers may not hire me, LMAO. Who even came up with this system? I feel like a traumatized slave. And then 5 days later, the OP makes a post titled, "Today, I found out my migraines, dizziness, problem with focus, double vision, and pain in the back of my skull were actually a brain tumor." They found out today while doing an MRI scan. After it was over, I was relieved at how smoothly it went. But then they suddenly called me shortly after to ask me to come back. You can imagine I was freaking out and shaking, and unfortunately, the worst came to be true. The doctor showed me the tumor at the base of my brain, affecting coordination, vision, some numbness in the left side of my body, muscle weakness causing headaches and nausea. Every symptom explained. I was in such shock I broke down, I could barely speak. He walked with me to the ER where an emergency neurosurgeon would come see me shortly. They did so many tests and took a lot of blood plus injected stuff directly into my veins. I have like 7 more holes in my body now. Anyway, they've given me some pills that have made me calmer, so I'm not freaking out as much, but I can't really sleep because I'm still afraid. May I add, I'm only 30 years old. Right now, I am particularly afraid of losing my eyesight and basically not waking up after the surgery. I literally cannot grasp the potential that I may not wake up. One last thing I'm afraid of is the tumor potentially being cancerous. What the hell would I do then? Cerebellum is the part of the brain that is affected if you're interested. They also said most of the tumor is like fluid. Edit. I should have specified. The tumor is preventing brain fluids from moving down to my spinal cord. Since they can't do that, they just stayed there pressing on other parts of the brain. If anyone is interested in more warning signs, the ones I've been having, just ask. And if you have any tips how I can manage this freaking anxiety about not surviving this, please tell me. Friends tell me these surgeries are performed a lot, so I need not to be afraid. I don't know if they're lying to me. And then 2 weeks later, the OP comes back with an update, which reads as follows. I can't believe I'm writing this, but here I am. I'm told the MRI after the surgery went well. I'm still waiting for biopsy though, so I'm super tense. I'm so worried. So worried. But I can handle it somehow, no? This is your sign to get tested if you haven't already. Currently, my sister is taking care of me. My brother is literally in Denmark with my parents gone. I wish I didn't have to be sick. Some of you called me brave or gave other helpful advice. I really appreciate it. In the next few days, they'll be removing my surgery, whatever. Scars or scabs, I don't know what they're called, but they're at the back of my head. I also will have to schedule an MRI appointment. I'm so scared, you all. I'll be honest with you. I'm just 30. I don't want to be gone yet. As for symptoms, they came one after another. First, dizziness, then migraines, and you know how they can get. Later on, ringing in my ears, not being able to focus. Never everything at once. What have I done wrong? And then the OP comes back a month later with an update titled, got laid off after 8 years and told I had a brain tumor within the same week. It didn't matter that I had an operation and was fighting for my life in the hospital. To my company and the HR rep, I am just a number. They said the decision to let me go is irreversible. I was already going through so much pain, but they literally didn't care. I'm so upset over this. I'm so worried about what will happen to me in the future too. A part of me wants revenge. I'm only 30. And then the OP comes back a week later and it reads as follows. Hi guys, first of all, thank you all for your support. It really made all the difference for me and still does. Second of all, I'm making this post since some of you have asked me for a more detailed explanation of my symptoms and such. I understand this. My aim is not to make anyone feel more scared. However, like a neurosurgeon said to me, 49 out of 50 people with my symptoms do not have a tumor in their brain. I'm not sure why I won the lottery and became that 1 out of 50 with symptoms that actually had a finding on their MRI, but no one has an answer to that, I guess. Hopefully, you'll be able to find what you need in what I assume will be a longer post. What actually happened to me? I started showing symptoms one by one around the beginning of December 22nd. Visited my general doctor, not very concerned at this point. Visited one neurologist in March 23, who wasn't very nice to me. She prescribed B6 vitamin, more painkillers, and muscle relievers, believing what I was having were migraines, but it was better to check. I went to the ER after the last migraine in May 23rd, was told migraines were pretty common, and that no specialist would come look at me since my condition wasn't bad enough. I went for one MRI a couple of days later, in May 23rd. They called me back because they had found a tumor in my cerebellum, preventing a cerebrospinal fluid from flowing further to my body. Suddenly, my condition was life-threatening, so a neurologist and neurosurgeon came. They kept me in the hospital and operated after 4 days for 9 hours. In that same week, around 4 days prior, I also got the news that I was being laid off after 8 years, by the way. But I guess that is a post for another time. So what actually were my symptoms? Dizziness, especially at night. I mainly felt it at the back of my head, but also everywhere in my skull. I would wake up at 3 a.m. because my head was spinning. I would also some pain in my back of my head or at the top of this point. The pain was just kind of relentless, but usually manageable with painkillers. I had something similar before, so I didn't give it much thought. Head pressure. This one I felt mostly when I tensed my muscles in some way. Think exercise or when going to the toilet. Thinking back to it, this was something I had never experienced before, yet I had no experience with tumors. So I just thought that was normal or something else. It was like all the tension from my body gathered in my head, causing me to feel right there. Headaches and 3 migraines in total. I had pain in the back of my head, where the neck and the head meet, which I thought was the result of stress and anxiety. As for the migraines, which was why I joined this sub, on one occasion I couldn't see peripherally for a while after visiting my office, so I thought it was the lights there that triggered it. With another one, I felt weakness in my muscles, especially my left leg, which felt hard to control for a while. These plus pain preceded the actual migraines, which I can't even compare to a regular headache. They hurt so much, even though I took painkillers. I just thought I was developing migraines with an aura. Throbbing pain in the back of my head. I've mentioned this before. Let's say I was talking to my colleagues, for example. That was enough stress to make me feel throbbing pain in the back of my head, literally the location of the tumor. Like I said, I would also feel it at night, or once when I was out with people that made me feel stressed. I thought it was stress or a bad posture, and then it would eventually stop. Nausea and vomiting. I actually vomited around 2 to 3 times during those 5 or so months. They tell you that people who have a brain tumor vomit all the time and also have seizures, that their symptoms are really, really bad all the time. That didn't feel like the case for me personally, but maybe they were talking about different cases. When I had one migraine at night, I remember I vomited. It also happened one morning when I felt nauseous. The vomiting, not the migraine. Other than that, no vomiting. Just a general feeling of nausea, especially in the morning. Double vision. So this one developed as one of my last symptoms. A few weeks before my MRI, I started seeing double, especially if something was further away from me. I normally wear glasses, so I thought, wait, maybe this comes with age and this is normal? Yeah, no. It was actually caused by the brain tumor. I also found it a bit challenging to walk since I didn't see well and got dizzy. This was days before the MRI. Things like getting up too fast would also make me feel pain in my head. I also remember I felt some sharp pain in the front of my head on a few occasions, forehead and temple area. People thought I had a sinus infection back then. That's it. If I remember anything else, I'll edit it in. I also remember feeling like my manager didn't really believe me back then, which was infuriating. Thinking back to it, should I have known? I had no idea. I was not the kind of person to think of the worst case scenario when it came to health. Plus, all my symptoms came slowly one by one and happened sporadically. Needless to say, that when I found out, I was in so much shock. So, what is actually happening right now? I am a month and 3/4 after my cerebellum surgery. They performed a craniotomy there, saving my life and giving me a huge scar in the process. The scar is slowly healing. The surrounding hair, which they had to shave off, is slowly growing back. I'm still quite tired, and moving fast or reading a lot makes me feel dizzy and nauseous, but I'm doing better than I was. In the beginning, I still had double vision. Felt so weak I couldn't walk to the bathroom by myself. I even fainted for the first time in my life in the hospital, trying to go to the bathroom. I was shaking. I also developed a cough and an eczema on my hands. It was quite something. My sister had to inject my belly to prevent blood clots and gave me medications too. But like I said, I'm slowly getting better. So yeah, what I and my doctors thought were migraines was actually a brain tumor. According to the biopsy, the wait was one of the worst times of my life. It's benign, called a something, grade 1. I'm thankful for this. Even cried happy tears when I found out. Although they had to leave 5% of it in my brain, since it is attached to my brainstem. I have no idea what to expect, but the options are monitoring or something like chemotherapy or radiotherapy. Yeah, and of course I will have to go for MRIs for the rest of my life. I don't know how I feel about this. To be honest, I'm terrified. I also found out that one of my lymph nodes on my neck is swollen. I have no idea if this is because of the operation, because of the fluid is now flowing downwards, or something else. Frankly, this experience has given me so much health anxiety that I do think about the worst case scenario i.e., cancer or death, with almost every symptom I have. Again, I feel scared. I think that is normal to some extent. One thing that no one talks about is the impact of the hospital stay and the operation on one's mental health. I was very, very depressed in the beginning. I genuinely didn't want to continue. Since my situation felt so hopeless, it still feels pretty bad. I cried so much, felt very embarrassed and guilty somehow. I had pretty bad dreams, which I thought were real. At one point, I thought I was dying and my organs were about to be shipped to Australia. I had to check with my sister. I've recently made an appointment to go see a psychologist to tell them everything, what I've been through, what I saw there. I want to process this trauma eventually, since this was all way too much to take in for one person. I want to tell them about how this has made me feel, that they put like 7 different needles in my body, that I was completely dependent on nurses, that I was in a life-threatening situation, that I was scared, and that I somehow made it out alive. Feel free to ask if you have any questions at all, and if I can help you somehow. I may edit or add to this post later on. For now, I'm going to sleep since I'm very tired. Take care, guys. Honestly. And that is the last post we have ever received from the OP. The scariest videos on the internet aren't the ones made for entertainment. They're the ones that were never meant to be seen. Home videos made in secret. Videos captured by the very people behind the crimes. Never intended for the public, never meant to be found. And yet, they were. Hidden away on old tapes, left behind on hard drives, or discovered long after everything was already over. Today, we're looking at some horrifying home videos that captured something terrifying. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And let's get into it. Peeping Tom. Fall, 2007. Macon, Georgia. 2 boys are sitting in their dormitory bedroom, and a conversation is taking place that will change their lives forever. The pair are both freshmen, newly introduced, and getting along well. They study at the Mercer University School of Law, a prestigious school with less than 400 students and ranking amongst the top schools in the nation. Earlier that day, the 2 boys went to class as usual. Mercer School of Law prides itself on small, intimate classrooms where students can collaborate on projects and take a vested interest in each other's education. And this meant that for the 2 boys, they knew everyone immediately. And as they're talking about their day and about their classmates, the conversation takes a shocking turn. If you were to commit a murder, how would you get away with it? One boy asks. The second boy replies, take off the arms, legs, and head, so nobody can identify the body. But to the first boy, this seems illogical, and he says so. I've studied forensics, he says. You should destroy the remains, not just dispose of them. And his friend coldly replies, I like my way better. Years later, law student Matthew Garrison would be asked about this conversation. He remembers it as something of a thought experiment, a trolley problem, something to pass the time before him and his roommate went to sleep. Matthew wasn't seriously asking. He had no way of knowing that his roommate wasn't just passing the time. He was deathly serious. And that roommate would commit a crime so gruesome and disturbing, it would scar Matthew Garrison and the town of Macon, Georgia, forever. June 17th, 2011, Maryland. Lauren Giddings, a vibrant young woman of 27, had been smiling all evening. She's the oldest of 3 siblings, and today, her younger sister Caitlin was finally married. As the maid of honor, Lauren has spent the past couple of days making sure everything would go smoothly. And it had. She stood by her sister at the altar. She smiled for the I do's, clapped for the kiss, and when it was over, congratulated her baby sister, formerly a bride, now a wife. Lauren hadn't been back home in Maryland since Christmas, and although she had just graduated from the prestigious Mercer University School of Law and desperately needed to study for the upcoming bar exam, she made the trip up from Georgia to celebrate. But as soon as that wedding was over, Lauren would need to head back to university. Everyone already knew, as soon as Lauren got back to Mercer, she'd be wrestling with her law books. She was a hard worker like that. President of her school's Federalist Society, top marks across all of the classes. She was brilliant and just as kind-hearted. So after a long day of dancing and laughing, Lauren wished the newlyweds farewell and off she went, back to Mercer University. June 27th, back in Maryland, younger sister Caitlin was settling into her new marriage. She spent time with her family and her husband. She didn't even have time to check her cell phone. She was so busy answering texts and calls of congratulations, and it was a wonderful, blissful busy. But there was a feeling in her gut that she couldn't shake. It had been 10 days since Lauren had returned to university. And in all that time, Lauren hadn't made contact. Not with her father, or her mother, or her newlywed sister. No one had heard anything. Caitlin reminded herself what Lauren had told her, that once she returned to school, she would completely dedicate herself to her studies. That much was reasonable. But to drop contact for so long, more than a week, that was odd. But although Caitlin was getting nervous, she trusted her sister. And besides, Caitlin was newly married. Everything was probably fine back in Georgia, so she let go of her concerns and tried to enjoy herself. But as the unease grew heavier and more paramount, on June 29th, just 2 days later, Caitlin finally received a phone call. But it wasn't from Lauren. It was from Lauren's close friend. She was calling to see if Caitlin had heard anything from her sister. Of course, Caitlin had not, but she'd call around, see if anyone else had. She began searching her phone for people to call, and realized she had missed some text messages in the flurry of congratulations. Have you seen Lauren? Lauren hasn't been answering her phone? Is Lauren still in Maryland with you? Caitlin, now panicking, begins making her own phone calls. Close friends of Lauren, staying nearby the campus. One after the other. No one, not a single person, has heard from Lauren. The next call she makes is to the Macon police station. Her father drives down immediately, and her mother makes plans to fly down the next day. The family, together, will search for the missing Lauren. But they won't be looking for very long. By the following day, on June 30th, the town of Macon is swarming with police. In Lauren's apartment, they find her keys, wallet, and cell phone, but no Lauren. They begin a thorough search of her entire apartment building, trying to find any clues that point to what might have happened to the missing Lauren Giddings. And down in the laundry room, they find just that. A bloodied hacksaw. Lauren was murdered. And within the hour, pieces of Lauren start turning up.
Person that was living there?
Yeah, Lauren was my neighbor. We're just trying to find out where she is at this point. I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I mean, the last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out, and no one's heard from her since.
Did you see her hang out with anyone at the time or anything like that?
I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I haven't seen anything. I mean, I've always heard noise outside, but it's just people walking by pretty much.
And she just recently graduated from Mercer?
Yeah, she and I we were both JD students. We graduated back in May.
What kind of person was she? I mean, what did you see?
I mean, she's as nice as can be. I mean, very personable, very much a people person.
Do you know anybody any enemies she might have had? Somebody that might want to hurt her?
No, we don't know where she is. I mean, the only thing we can think is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her. Because we went over. One of her friends had a key. We went inside and tried to see if there was anything amiss, but I mean, she had a door jamb that was sitting right by it, so there was no sign that anyone broke in. I mean, the door was locked when everyone got here. I mean, we just don't know where she is.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of. I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body.
Had you seen anything there? Had you seen anything there? I mean, we don't know if this is the same person. You know what I mean? Like, they took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. So that's how we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
The interview you just watched was produced by WXGA, a local Georgia news station, and the man was neighbor and graduate law student Stephen McDaniel. His despair, hearing that Lauren Giddings is dead, is undeniable. Her torso was discovered in a nearby trash can, and only by chance. The trash truck was an hour late. Had it arrived on time, no one would have discovered Lauren's remains. But someone else had a different perspective to offer. Watching from home, Matthew Garrison sees his old freshman roommate getting interviewed by WXGA, and he remembers that late-night conversation from years earlier. As soon as Matthew learned about the case, the missing girl, and the discovered torso on his old college campus, he knew. He knew it could only be Stephen McDaniel. People would tell me, "Your roommate is effing crazy," Matthew Garrison told journalist David Latt. Nobody in our social circle had any problem believing it. Matthew informs the police, explains his suspicions, and Stephen McDaniel is promptly arrested. They interrogate him. Where had he been? What had he been doing? But the former law student doesn't budge. He ignores the questions he doesn't like and refuses others. When asked if officers can search his apartment or his phone records, he receives them similarly, with an absolute refusal. They ask him about a pair of fresh scratches on his torso. They say, those scratches look consistent with fingernail scratches. McDaniel claims he scratched himself sleeping, but the police aren't having it. They interrogate him for half the night, awaiting a search warrant, and when they get it, they find blood in McDaniel's apartment. He is arrested and his cell phone seized. In his camera roll, a chilling video. McDaniel had been stalking Lauren for months. He was obsessed with her and intent on killing her. But he needed to see what her apartment looked like. So he taped his cell phone to his stick, and here we see him scouting the living room, planning his senseless killing. McDaniel would later confess to the killing. Using a stolen master key, he snuck into Lauren's apartment in the night, wearing a mask and gloves. He strangled her to death while she slept. Then he dragged her to his nearby apartment and dismembered her. While most of her remains were discarded in a campus dumpster, which were taken to the landfill and never recovered, McDaniel is currently serving a life sentence, with the possibility of parole after 30 years served. Today, he continues filing appeals and making pleas for his release, insisting, in one form or another, that he was innocent and deserves a second chance. But for Lauren's family, there is no appeal. There is no second chance. Only the vacancy he created in their lives. a daughter who will never come home, no matter how much they plead. And hopefully, regardless of his knowledge of the law, he spends the rest of his life behind bars. The Redwood City Burn. August 15th, 1989, Stockton, California. It was a scorching hot day at summer's end. Alfonso Lua, driving with family on Interstate 205, was eager to get home and cool off. They'd been driving for some time now, and only had a little while to go, when their car suddenly overheated. Frustrated, the family pulled over, and while Alfonso inspected the damage, his wife and son looked on, fanning themselves in the 90-degree heat. The car was burnt out. There was no doubt about that. Probably an issue with the radiator. He wouldn't be able to fix it himself, at least not anytime soon. Alfonso comes up with a plan. Walk to the nearest house and ask for help. The family will join him. So together, they march down the boiling roadside, eager to find a savior. But early on in their journey, they discovered something hidden in a bush, deep onto the shoulder near Hanson Road. A camouflage jacket. It caught their eye, and curiosity got the better of them. It looked in good condition, not something someone would just throw away or forget about. So they decided to take a quick detour to check out the jacket. Alfonso reached into one of the pockets. Inside, a collection of cassettes. Recognizably, they were heavy metal music. And an unlabeled videotape. Again, struck by curiosity, he wondered what might be on the strange videotape. Regardless, they first needed to find help. So he pocketed the items he'd found and continued plodding along. Eventually, he found help, thankfully, and was able to get home without anyone suffering from heat stroke. But when they got home, they all wondered together, what might be on the videotape? Back in 1989, every house had a VCR, and so did Alfonso. So he tucked in the videotape, rewound the footage, and hit play. What the family saw next was nothing short of horrifying. A roaring house fire, and a madman ranting and laughing at his accomplishment, setting fire to someone's home. The family was terrified. They turned the footage over to local authorities, and just like the family, the local firemen were just as terrified. "I've never run across anything as eerie as that tape," said Frank Curry, fire captain for the California Department of Forestry. "It frightened me. As a matter of fact, I thought about it that night when I went to bed." Almost immediately, Frank and his team began scouring the video for clues as to where exactly the fire had been started, and more importantly, who did it. First, they analyzed the footage piece by piece. Too dark to see any landmarks, they instead turned to words of the madman, carefully replaying the video to make out hushed words, sentences, and phrases. Phrases like, "Look at the fire. This is beautiful. Look at it. You see what I can do? Do you see what I can do? This is my domain, my hell." Chilling words. And although it gave investigators a view into the mind of whatever maniac had done this, it didn't bring them any closer to a location or a suspect. But then, a name. "Look at it, Omar. This is what I've been doing on your week's vacation. I said I'll do it. I said I'll do it. This was a major clue, but a vague one. Who was Omar? Was that the homeowner? Away on vacation? Unaware that their property was burning to ashes? Could it be that the arsonist was a construction worker and Omar the property manager? If the arsonist had been fired, he would have plenty of reason to go destroy the home, but maybe not. Or was Omar a victim living in the home? Was it a murder? A disgruntled worker's revenge? A spontaneous act of anarchy? The name, though helpful, brought about more questions than answers. And before long, they were trying other methods. First, you can hear firemen responding to the property, attempting to put it out, but it was too vague a lead. 500,000 house fires happen each year in the United States, and many of those are in California. There would be no way to track down which firemen had responded to this fire without clearer details. But visually enhancing the footage proved too difficult and too fruitless. Instead, they made a couple of deductions. The house appears to be a wood-framed, one-story ranch with 2 chimneys. There was another house on the left side of the picture, partially hidden by a white trailer. The trailer may indicate that the burning house was under construction. The setting is uncluttered, perhaps rural. The arsonist gives the date as 1988, and TV commercials recorded onto another part of the tape verify that date. Because fire engines do arrive, it seems fairly certain that somewhere a report of this fire is on file. But the actual location of the house fire was a dead end. The inciting incident, when the Lau family discovered the camouflage jacket on Interstate 205, was too vague a placement. Interstate 205 is a 37-mile-long highway that feeds into several of the state's major highways. That means anyone could have been the arsonist. They could have been from Oregon or Nevada or Washington State, and they'd have no way of knowing. But then, as Frank was debating the interstate and the jacket, a thought occurs to him. What happened to it? Captain Frank Curry met with Alfonso Lua on Interstate 205, and together they searched for the camouflage jacket. And remarkably, it was still there. Nobody had touched it since the Luas, and although the Luas had found the tapes and cassettes, they hadn't found everything. In the pockets, previously dismissed as garbage, was a wooden pestle used to grind up herbs, and nearby, a camouflage glove and a ceramic skull. Given the information from the video, Captain Frank began to suspect the arsonist may have been practicing Satanism, dark magic, rituals. It's obvious to Frank, this man, whoever he is dangerous. Frank knew that many serial killers of his day began as arsonists. The terrible son of Sam, David Berkowitz, was responsible for murdering 6 people in New York City in 1976. But before his killing spree, he was known as an arsonist, responsible for over 2,000 fires all throughout the Big Apple. Frank, for his part, wanted to stop the arsonist in the video before he could become the next son of Sam. But the jacket was the only lead he had. Without anywhere else to take the investigation, he decides to try a different strategy altogether. They needed a location. That much was clear. And in order for them to find it, they'd need help from the public. Unsolved Mysteries was a groundbreaking true crime and paranormal documentary series that premiered in 1987, blending reenactments, interviews, and ominous narration. The show was created to help investigators solve actual, real cases, asking the public for assistance at the end of every show. Created by John Cosgrove and Terry Dunn Muir, and famously hosted by Robert Stack, its stark visual style, chilling music, and direct appeals to viewers for tips gave it the feeling of a public investigation unfolding in real time, turning ordinary audiences into Crime Stoppers. Frank submits the arsonist footage to Unsolved Mysteries, and within minutes of the episode's first airing, hundreds of tips start flooding in. But one viewer would change the course of the mystery for good. Ed Tarantino is watching at home when he makes the startling revelation: the burning house depicted in the video was the house just behind him. He remembers when it happened. The home was unoccupied. It was still under construction in 1988, a year before the tape was discovered. It had mysteriously burned to the ground. In 1989, it was rebuilt, but the fact remains. He might not be able to make out any details, but Ed is certain it's the same house. He immediately calls the telecenter to report the information, and suddenly, they have their location. 60 miles away in Redwood City, California, a fire captain can confirm the viewer's suspicions. Captain John Delanges knew every fire that happened in his county. He remembers responding to the burning house, and even more remarkably, he recorded it for training purposes. Setting up a camera nearby to capture their extinguishing of the home, the two captains compare their footage, and finally, without any shadow of a doubt, they have their location: Redwood City. And just as quickly after discovering the location, they discover more startling and frightening information. Between 1987 and 1989, they connected another 10 fires to the one depicted in the home video, meaning that whoever the arsonist was, this wasn't an isolated incident. He was on a rampage, and if they didn't stop him soon, just like the son of Sam, he might get bored of destroying unoccupied homes and start killing people. But who is Omar? They discovered that the name Omar isn't connected to the property in any way. Not the construction crew, not the owners, the realtors, no one. The only person Omar could be connected to is the arsonist himself. But their theory wouldn't be confirmed until the following year, when another viewer, Doris Lance, watching reruns of Unsolved Mysteries, has a realization. She wonders if the unidentified Omar might be her 17-year-old neighbor. The boy was known for troublemaking. Maybe he had information on the fires? She calls in the tip, and police take Omar in for questioning. At first, he denies any involvement, but after a couple of hours, he's ready to talk. He is the Omar from the video, and the arsonist is his friend. He had been on vacation during the actual fire, but his friend had told him beforehand. Omar didn't believe him, not until he saw the videotape his friend had made. "Look at it, Omar. I said I'll do it. I said I'll do it." Omar's friend was 19 years old, and his name was John. They began surveilling John's home. For weeks, they watched the boys coming and going. Even though Omar gave them a name, they had no concrete proof that John had set the fires. Not really. So they waited to see if they could catch him in the act. And after about a month, they did. In the night, without warning, smoke begins billowing out from John's house, and a humming orange glow starts to emanate from the garage. Firemen arrive on the scene within minutes, and inside they see John. He'd set his garage on fire. The fire is quickly put out, and the boy is arrested, giving the firemen free rein to investigate. And what they found inside changes the case completely. Dissected animal corpses, bloody knives, a Freddy Krueger mask and gloves, a collection of newspaper clippings connected with other fires in the area, and more videotapes. Captain John's theory was correct after all. This boy was not just an arsonist. He was a psychopath, and his cruel behavior was evolving beyond fires. In 1991, John pled guilty to 1 count of arson, but because of his age, the court pushed for rehabilitation over severe punishment, and he served time in juvenile hall. His full identity was never released to the public, and after his release, he disappeared back into ordinary life. No public record, no interviews, no known whereabouts, just a slew of burnt buildings left in his wake, an eerie videotape, and one haunting question that lingers decades later. If that videotape hadn't been found on the side of the road, how many more fires would have followed? And if he was getting worse, how many people could have lost their lives? Jeffrey Epstein's home videos. Little St. James. The infamous island Jeffrey Epstein used to traffic dozens of young girls, holding them against their will for weeks at a time. We are all far too familiar with it by now. The high-definition lens of today gives it an eerie, almost distant quality. But in this recently released footage, we start to see it in a whole new light. We don't know who recorded this, in what year, or at what time. But whoever they were took the time to capture the scenery. The footage is clearly damaged, but we can still make out clear details. Blue, crystalline waves breaking on the edge of the sand. Palm trees, rock walls lining a simple road that leads down into the island. A golf cart perched at the edge of a hill. The footage cuts to sea level, on the water. We see the stone walls again, carving into the forest. A dark entrance leads further inland. And more golf carts, 3 more. This isn't a small group of criminals, operating on some patch of sand in the middle of the ocean. It's a large-scale operation, and over this quiet, peaceful landscape, the horrors taking place seem even more unbelievable. The camera cuts back to the hillside. If you look closely, you can see the faint imprint of a road slicing through the hillside. The transit system on the island is basic, but terrifyingly extensive. The American flag flies high, normally a symbol for unity, democracy, and law, tainted by association. From above, it looks like something you'd book on holiday. A shimmering cove, a water trampoline, even a yacht. But just beside it, we see the infamous baby blue rooftops of St. James Island. Up until this time, we've only seen them from distant aerial views, but now we get to see every terrifying detail of the tropical hellscape. And somewhere inside is a monster, waiting for his next victim. Warning, The footage you're about to watch is incredibly disturbing. A blurred out victim is performing for Epstein.
That's what you'll be learning today.
I'm learning some
Yay!
my boyfriend's back.
Exactly. Brilliant.
Mismatch.
This is mismatched teacher. She's mismatched today. It's just for Jeffrey's amusement.
No, see what he did in Nadia?
That's true. Yes, but it's all within the own privacy.
The rest of the footage is too graphic to show on YouTube, but needless to say, even though it's blurred, it's horrific. Two girls coerced into practicing tonight's entertainment. Let's cut to back on the hilltops. A helicopter is doing tricks for two onlookers, a man and a woman.
That's crazy. Alex sneaks up on you.
What?
He'll sneaks up on you.
The pilot begins doing dangerous flips. Normally, this would be regulated, but there are no rules on a private island. Epstein has total control here. And who else is in attendance on the island?
Oh my god!
A quick shot of what looks to be Epstein's private pilot. And as we follow the helicopter, a clearer shot of the men accompanying our camerawoman.
That's crazy.
Happy New Year. Yes.
A public park of some sort, what looks to be an old building or manor.
On the road. Just trying to get all the layout.
After some research, the building she's getting the layout for is the South Gate House of the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Reservoir, located in Central Park. The building was used to regulate the city's water supply. So the question is, why does the unknown camerawoman want the layout? Well, let's keep watching.
Oh, really? You remember what happened in Snelling?
Oh, wow.
First fight.
And it used to be part of the water supply of New York, Manhattan.
Shot in Snelling. But they knew.
Assuming we are still in the same area, it's reasonable enough to assume we are in the South Gate House. The machinery we see here, including an AC electric generator, would have been used to generate power from the river. The camerawoman continues to catalog the space, not just the machinery. Again, she's cataloging the layout. And we're about to find out what for.
Is it masonry walls? Yeah. That is our boat.
That's cool.
Why is it here? You know, there's an opportunity to find out about the deck. Use it for the crew chiefs.
You could build out on the water?
Well, I mean, everything's open now. I mean, there's no.
It does always have pump houses. You see that we could do different things with. That's a northern pump house, but they're much smaller towers. This is the prime one.
Okay. You could be all connected or whatnot.
Somehow, I don't know. It could have, they don't have to be.
Is it masonry walls? Yeah. Steps are pretty.
Put a little space between you as you go down on the steps. Don't everyone get on the steps.
Yeah, you can't really see anything.
In the dark underbelly of the city, bathed in the dim green infrared, the group continues to discuss the inner workings of the pump house, what it was used for, and what it could be turned into.
I have a night shot on here, infrared, so it's actually picking up.
There you go. That's nice and cool.
Oh, did it come down here? So cool. Just get this part.
Back on the surface, the camerawoman happily hums as she scans the exterior. I'd like to remind you, this isn't just any woman. We can't confirm their identity, but considering this footage was collected from the same camera, and its inclusion in the files, we can allegedly assume this woman was sent here by Epstein. And if you had any suspicions about what their intentions for the property are, a government building, mind you, well, they're about to tell us.
Because you could sort of have this already planned out for something, so then what part is available to do something with?
We actually don't have any funding for this.
Oh, okay, so that's, okay. So you just need funding for what you already have in mind to do?
Yes.
Okay.
And in a sense, there is basically a top lot geared towards smaller kids.
Mm-hmm.
The large piece out front, adjacent to Umpire Rock, would be for older kids, and is also basically a giant water feature. At the high point, water will actually runs down there. This area out in front will be a large open area with a synthetic turf play surface, and then there'll be swings and kind of an old-fashioned playground off to the south.
That makes it very clear. Epstein, or whoever this woman is, were involved in an investment or acquisition of the property. Or at the very least, they were in talks to help fund a public park with sections for younger and older kids. But why did she need to see the inside of the building? The underground? What was the intended purpose of cataloging the interior if their only intention was to fund an exterior playground? Well, we'll never know. And as I was reviewing the footage, it seemed to be over. But I was wrong. Hidden at the end of the tape, sandwiched between two empty blue screens, is 2 seconds of footage. The camera is turned on facing an unknown woman, and then quickly whips around to the desk in front of her. On it, a document that's too blurry to read, and some letterhead that reads, Jeffrey Epstein. Throughout the tape, we've seen numerous women manning the camcorder. And what their relation is to Epstein, we have no way of knowing. But the number of people we saw in the footage, the 3 blurred out people, and the several men we counted earlier, including Epstein himself, makes this a startling piece of evidence. And this isn't an isolated tape. There's new footage coming out every single day, as people continue to sift through the thousands of videos, each time discovering new, first-hand documentation of the horrors that Jeffrey Epstein inflicted on his innocent victims, and the ways he captured each and every moment. Here we see Epstein dancing with an alleged victim. It seems lighthearted, like they're both having fun. I think this is what makes the Epstein videos so confusing for most people. These girls, although they look like they're having fun, have been systematically manipulated by powerful people. And no matter how jubilant it looks, the terrible, traumatic abuses these women suffered can never be fully communicated. But this is what abuse, real, everyday abuse looks like. It almost looks normal, but beneath the surface, darker currents are running. This footage has no audio. Jeffrey is presenting an alleged victim to the camera. We don't hear anything, but there seems to be some light conversation happening. She reaches out to touch him. We can't see her face, but the gesture seems almost playful. But then we begin to see the terrible truth. He gives her instruction. Then he gets a bit impatient. And what happens next is beyond words. This is something we saw in the original camcorder footage. Provocative acts. Women teaching other girls to do the same. This is a pattern we continue to see throughout the newly released footage. A powerful man with more money and influence than any of us could possibly imagine, taking pleasure in the strong-arm acquisition of property, prestige, and his disgusting desires. Jeffrey Epstein didn't just abuse his victims. He wanted them to perform. He treated corporations, the government, and his own victims like playthings. He used them for his own entertainment, and he cataloged everything so he could relive it every single day. His own personal movie, where he got to decide the ending. And today, as more files have come to light, it's become all the more important that we continue to press the issue. Because only after the last file is released and every perpetrator is brought to justice, only then can the terrible performance end.
Merci.